Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slot One Super Podcast. We have a very fun episode planned for you today. As per usual, my hair is insane in the membrane, and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Minato's Flash and Mask Ningen. Say hello, boys.
Hello.
How is it going? Yeah, totally.
What is up? What's up, gentlemen?
Hello.
Having a good weekend. Hello, governor.
Hello, governor. Hello, governor.
I say, I feel
Yes,
right.
sir.
I feel right at home.
Right, I forgot we have That's funny. Anyhow, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Episode 43. That is crazy. We're approaching the big 5-0, which is kind of insane to think about. But of course, we have lots to. It's wild, honestly. We have lots to talk about today. Obviously, we got some LR goodness for you. We got the funny Ginyu Force has made their debut on Global, and of course, the ever exciting Cell Max, which I am very, very pumped to talk about. Because obviously, y'all know. I mean, who would have guessed? I'm a big fan of superhero. Wow.
Yep.
I know. I know. You would have never guessed, right?
Show me your collector's edition right now.
No, I won't go there. Ironic that you say that. I literally have 2 copies of the Blu-ray, but anyway, not the point. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into everything that we have for today. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of our topics, which we'll start off with the good old global version, baby. As a reminder, we would just like to let you guys know that all donations and super chats will be read out at the end of the podcast. Obviously, we always like to save these for the end. Got to save the best for last, of course. And also, just then we can kind of have everything at the end there. Give you guys all the time in the world. But yes, let's go ahead and get into it here. So, of course, our first topic for today, which is going to lead into some very interesting discussion about some of the shenanigans going on the global version at the moment. We have LR Ginyu. That's right. We have the Int LR Ginyu Force. Obviously, these guys came out on JP a little while ago. It's kind of crazy. I'm going to be honest. It's so weird. I don't know if it's just because of the current way that everything is going when it comes to Dokkan. But I swear, banners feel like they've been going really fast this year. I don't know what it is about, this time in particular, but I swear, the banners have been going so quick. Because I was like, oh yeah, it's been, maybe a little bit since the Ginyu Force came out. But they were the last banner before Goku and Buu, which is kind of crazy because they weren't even that long ago as well. So, obviously, these guys just arriving on Global has caused a bit of a stir in the community because obviously the main unit that you would kind of be using them with in part of the celebration, of course, being Topo, is currently not out on Global yet. Now, we will talk about Topo and his shenanigans with Global in a little bit when we get to our next Global topic. However, of course, Ningen, being the global main yourself, I know that you just pulled for these guys. What do you think of these guys? Let's hear it.
Well, so I've talked about it in the videos that I've made about them. We've talked about them a little bit, obviously when they came out on JP, when it was a very different scenario, right? Because they kind of were the complete opposite of the trend for the LR, Part 2 LR in that same time zone last year, right? Where Super Buu came out as the Part 2 in the Kale celebration. Wasn't really, even though he did technically fit under her leader skill, wasn't designed to be run on her team, didn't, help her out at all or anything like that. Whereas these guys came out as the Part 2 LR for Topo and fit really well on his team, right? On a special pose team, giving support, all that kind of stuff. Really cool. So it's kind of the reversal of fortune is then the other way around for Global, where we get this LR drop in this time slot for Global right before the anniversary. So last year when it was Super Buu, it didn't really matter that he was kind of dropping on his own without the unit that he was the Part 2 for, because you weren't really supposed to run them together anyway. Whereas these guys coming out now on global, I mean, obviously, you know, we like to spice the video titles up a little bit, but like I literally called my video for them. It was something like, was this the worst timed release on global ever or something? Because they've come out on global, but they just have no team, right? Like you can run them on the Ginyu Force team with AGL Ginyu, which, I mean, I tried it earlier today with items and still couldn't beat Red Zone Kid Buu.
Really?
And then like if you want to run a actual, like if you want to run a non-Ginyu Force special pose team, then it's like int go tanks with a 170 lead, and the only units really, you got like the Tech LR Ribrien trio who are pretty decent, but we don't have like the physical Ribrien EZA. You pretty much have to use like Gamma 1 and 2, and I know they get buffed by like anniversary equips. Gamma 1 is still kind of runnable. Gamma 2 is kind of getting a little bit shaky in these tougher events. Like, it's such a weird team on global at the moment, and their whole passive is built around special pose. Like, if it was special pose or space traveling warriors or something, like even that would be an improvement.
It'd be a little better
because they're on AGL Freezer's 200% leader skill as well, but he's not on special pose. So I think you can get their intro animation as long as one unit on the team is non-special pose, but you can't use their active skill. If you have a non-special pose character on the team, you just can't use their active skill at all. So they're designed to be run on a team that essentially like doesn't exist on global currently, which is odd. Now, obviously, from a player's perspective, also, like it's good to
they won't guard.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to have the full rotation, don't you? Yep. So
and they get damage reduction of 35%.
So yeah, it's all just like it's all just very strange. So like I say, from a player perspective, like on the one hand, it's cool because like the last banner before the anniversary, it's always cool if you can just skip that because you save your anniversary fund.
Like, you know what I was gonna say? Literally, like, you know how we always say that it's like, oh, this is a skip banner. I know that usually, like, that's just kind of a term we use because it's like you could still summon and get a decent character, but it's like, you know, obviously it's just because there's something better that's coming. I think this may be the first time that I can confidently say in Dokkan history that this is 100% a skip banner, like legitimately, like actual factual.
Saying it's the first time is crazy.
Nah, it's the first time.
There's been worse. But what I would say is that I don't even think it's like, okay, if you are a huge fan of Topo and Topo's team, and you're like, I want to run the special pose team, then you summon for this game, right? If that's like, my team is gonna be the special pose team. I'm Topo #1 defender. Then sure, right? If you really love LR Ginyu Force, sure.
Surely that guy is on Twitter, I would think.
I mean, there's a lot of people who are actually fans of Ginyu Force specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of them will be interested in Topo's team.
Yeah.
But if you want to manage your stones the best way, summoning before anniversary, no matter what it is, summoning before anniversary is not really ideal. So either way, this banner is less value, right? Especially because Topo's not in global, but Topo's eventually going to return in global. Worst case scenario, even if he doesn't get his own banner somehow, Topo on JP is scheduled to come back in either October or November, right? At the end of the year. So no matter what, Topo will be coming to global within the next like 4 or 5 months or so. And he'll be on a refeatured banner because of the sync, right? So we'll see what happens there. But it could be a case maybe where Topo is featured with another Dokkan Fest and then you get like double the value because it's 2 new Dokkan Fests, quote unquote, for global. Who knows? I just wanted to put that out there just because I see a lot of people saying it's like, well, obviously this Ginyu is like a skip and his release right now is very terrible. But if you are interested in Ginyu and special pose team, then you need to plan your stones accordingly for that team. And I'll let you continue on there. I just wanted to put my little thoughts into it. And there's one thing that Ningen said that I wanted to say something else, but that's fine.
You know, it is kind of funny. 2 of those things was something I was going to say, but I'll mention the thing I was going to say about Topo since you brought it up. Well, first of all, in terms of, it's kind of funny because I know with you saying there's been like a lot of worse like banners or like skip banners. It is kind of funny because I have been seeing a lot of people saying that this is, like, in terms of global, obviously, the worst release in Dokkan history, which I think is really interesting.
I think that's fair to say, because like
I understand the point. I don't agree personally because I think that there's personally been worse instances.
I would argue Omega Shenron's worse because, like, if we consider this, like, this has pity, right? And on top of that, this has guaranteed featured. And on top of that, we know a team's coming. And furthermore, the special posting, at least you have like a decent leader, and like there's some options there. Global doesn't even have a Super Saiyan 3 Go thanks to Super Easy, which is next week, and he helps the team. But like if we think of like GT bosses with no pity, with 10 featured, with no guaranteed featured,
at least we know that Topo is coming and his team is good, whereas like the GT bosses team still just sucks. So that is true.
I don't think I would say it's the worst release, but in terms of like Ginyu comes out, how does he look like when released? He's definitely one of the bottom tier releases on global. It's just a thing of we know stuff upcoming because of global's behind.
And the thing is, it's funny because it is similar to Omega Shenron in the sense that, like, you know, don't get me wrong, as a unit themselves, like they are super good. You know, seeing the numbers that they do, like I only got the one copy. I had to go to the pity, but I was talking to Theo about it before we started. With the ticket packs that Global has, you get a bunch of the coins extra as well. So it only took, there 3 sets of discounted rotations as well. So that meant all in all, it only took me like, I think it was like 410 stones to get to enough of the pity coins, what with the extra SSRs traded in, and then the ones that come with the ticket packs. So it's not too bad in terms of my overall stone count, but yeah, mine are 55%. They're not even full level 10 links, and like the numbers that they do are pretty good. Even in that run, you know, against Kid Buu, trying it with the Ginyu Force team, it's the rest of the team that lets the run down, like not them. Like that, the unit is really good. It's just like, yeah, their team, the options that you have right now just kind of suck. And I have seen people in my streams and stuff say that like people who are very hyped for Topo or like interested in summoning for him when he comes out, it is one of those awkward kind of situations because ideally if you want the Ginyu Force for the Topo team, you kind of need to summon for them now when they have the pity and everything, because otherwise Topo's going to come out and then your only chance to get them then after that is just going to be like unfeatured on other yellow coin banners or when they become available with yellow coins, which means you won't have them ready to go on your Topo team like as soon as you get him. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like an investment, I guess, for the future if you want to get Topo. But right before the anniversary as well. It's it's definitely the way I was talking about it in the videos, like in the run up for this last week or so. It is basically like every multi you do on the Ginyu banner is a multi that you're not doing in the anniversary. So
that's true.
Considering how crazy those units are.
I mean, you could even say worldwide on 10th anniversary, right? It's like those are a bunch of things you could save up for, and especially with worldwide being so soon. And even like when it comes to like a summoning on non-anniversary or like Dokkan Best banners, it's like if you're thinking about summoning on a yellow coin LR banner, why not save for Max, a much superior character and same kind of format being a yellow coin LR with pity, right? Like if you're gonna have to choose and you're like, I don't really care necessarily which one, then I would say obviously Cell Max. We'll talk about him later, but like he's just so good. I'm a Cell Max glazer. Not gonna lie, we're not even talking about him yet, but I'm gonna glaze him so hard when we get there because he is great. Yeah, for sure. But one thing I do want to bring up, like not necessarily in relation to Ginyu specifically, I guess kind of, but this celebration is really good in global, and you could tell because they're trying to like push everything together here. And I think Dokkan has kind of wanted to talk about something in relation to this, but they're pushing all this content to the celebration. If you look at it, this celebration is like this part 2 global celebration is actually like for a pre-anniversary celebration. This is like by far one of the best celebrations ever because you have Gideon came out, right? You have quest mode stages, 2 super easies, burst mode, 3 red zone stages. You have missions for the Frieza events. You have support memory awakening. You have the world tournaments, right? Which will give you a good amount of stuff. Super battle stages, a new intensifying fight stage, right? And then everything that came out in part 1. Like this celebration is crazy. Like in the span of basically like a week, you get all that stuff. Like especially with the 2 super easies. That's a lot of stuff that you could start building up a lot of stone for pre-anniversary.
Yeah,
keep in mind, guys.
I was just gonna say, if you're someone who really doesn't care about summoning for Ginyu, like you're gonna get so many extra stones over the next couple of weeks, right?
There's a new Dragon Ball story too, right? The
Yeah.
Resurrection F.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like in just a little over a week, like on the 30th, probably, right? The countdown for the 9th anniversary starts. Then we'll get Asteria White Goku's EZA Global will be getting. They should get again stages. I think it's 6 and 7, the Beerus and Golden Frieza stages for the
Red
Ruby's
Zone.
2 Red Zone.
Yep.
There's like you guys are like right now in the spot where you're just gonna start getting so many stones every week. I think I saw Toon Rami's title. Wasn't it like 200 stones? And it's like in this week alone, right? Let me bring that up. Toon Rami's title right here. I just because he like adds up all the stones. 200 plus stones. Crazy, just in a week span.
Yeah,
the content coming. So that's awesome, man. And then literally like in pretty much 2 weeks and like a day or two, like the banners will be out on global in terms of the night that
which is insane, honestly.
Yep.
Kind of crazy to think about. So yeah, the thing we're going to talk about later that we'll just talk about now since we're on the topic of it, right, is that this celebration is very stacked and very good, but not at a cost, or at a cost, rather, I suppose. Because obviously with all of this content getting pushed up and the amount of content that has been taken from Topo's celebration, on his own, even now, we now have the, which we'll talk about with Goku Black a little bit more, but the Gotenks Super EZA also coming to global. I know the boy Rick, shout out to Rick, of course, made a tweet saying that global is also getting the Ultimate Gohan Burst Mode with the Super EZA Gotenks next week, which means the only content left in Topo's celebration for global is Topo's banner, the Special Pose Sub EZAs, and the EX missions for Stage 6 of the Anniversary Battle.
And give a lot of this,
right, and that's it. So
that's it. From the JP only content for the Goku Black celebration, a lot of this stuff is being pulled from there, right? Like say the Dragon Ball story, the intensifying fights, a lot of this different stuff, right? I think the Infinite Dragon Ball history is not coming to global, but it's like so much of this stuff is coming to global at the same time. And Topo celebration is like bare bones. So really bare bones.
So with that being said, right, it's kind of making me wonder because I know a lot of people have speculated, and I'm sure too, by the way, the EX missions for the 6th stage of the Anniversary Battle, that'll probably just be put in at the end of the anniversary. That was more so just happenstance that Topo celebration came after Annie, right? So I'm sure that will probably just be put in the anniversary, maybe. I don't know. It could not be, but I could definitely see them doing that. Regardless, the whole point is obviously Topo himself. It kind of makes me wonder if Topo is going to be put in some kind of like sub banner, or if he's going to be put in like a global countdown banner or something like that, where, basically it will be that, it won't be like his full banner, or they'll just basically like slip him into the countdown celebration because of the fact that, obviously his celebration virtually has no content remaining, right? So, and it wouldn't really make sense, especially considering how we're trying to get to the sync. It wouldn't really make sense for them to pull content then from other celebrations to then be able to, make his celebration more filled out, right? I think that wouldn't really make sense. Although it is global, and we do know that, global does not make sense in the decisions that they make. So I would not be surprised if they do decide to take stuff from other celebrations. I think it would be dumb, but it's definitely not like out of the realm of possibility. However, I think at this point, it almost makes more sense for them to basically have Topo be like a countdown celebration Dokkan Fest or something like that. Now, it's such a mixed bag, right? Because it's like, for one, I know there aren't that many people who are crazy about Topo, right? There aren't that many people who are, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go all in on the man, right? I know I personally was really excited for him to come out. But, it's not like overall in the general populace, he's the most popular character.
Mm.
There'll always be, you know, people who want to summon for these units that aren't like the main units or aren't like big boy units that you should really be like putting a lot of your stones for. Of course, if it's your favorite character, you just like the unit or whatever, there'll always be people for that. So it'll kind of stink for them. But I honestly think that it may just be best if they do that, only because that, and the thing to think about too is just what Minato was saying before, is the fact that the basically like the fact that Topo will return sooner than later on JP because he hasn't come back yet. The sooner he's on Global, the sooner that means that he can be then back on Global, and the sooner that also means then that things will be synced up, because then that means that they can just have him be on the banner that, you know, will return the character. Because obviously they have never really done it in the way of like having a new character come out on a banner that, you know, like basically in terms of Dokkan Fest or LRs, right? They've never had a unit come out on a banner with another new character without them having their own banner. So low key, I kind of think that honestly might be a good thing if they just do that, because then they can have him come back sooner, right, on Global, and it'll be synced with JP. But I don't know. What do you think? Again, obviously you're the global man yourself. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, I could definitely see them doing something. The problem is, of course, that Global is always playing catch up, right? Which is what we thought the certain plans that we thought were going to be in place, right, for the sync would be things like, you know, dropping Goku Black early in the middle of 2 other celebrations, gives Global a bit of time to catch up while JP then has to get him instead. And then, of course, all these shenanigans of his celebration having more stuff. Because what I was going to say is with Topo's celebration being stripped down so much, they could use that period that where his celebration would be to drop a bunch of other stuff that Global doesn't have after the anniversary, right? So have like Topo, have Cell Max, have like any other little bits and pieces that are not out. The only problem is that, of course, is that while Global is having the anniversary, JP has the Tanabata celebration. So there's the Dokkan Fest exclusive LR and the Carnival LR that come out during that Global will then also not have. And there's not enough time between the anniversary and then the worldwide celebration, I don't think, unless they do shove it all in that small gap, to put all of that stuff in before the worldwide celebration. The only thing I guess they could do to like add on to Theo's point, right, of potentially him just appearing on another banner is, I guess, like, imagine JP gets the Tanabata celebration while Global gets the anniversary, and then as soon as the anniversary ends, Global gets the Tanabata like banner, but whoever the Tanabata LR unit is, Topo is just on his banner, like on Global. And then Cell Max could be on the Carnival LR banner as just a featured yellow coin LR. But the thing is, like, there's all these things that they've not really ever done before that we've been speculating over the last like year, pretty much since the sync was announced. It was like, oh, well, maybe they could do this because then they can fit this and this in at the same time and like close this gap. And they haven't been doing that. So having things like that happen where like a character releases brand new but just on another banner for the first time is a way that I think would make sense to help with the sync and help close some of the gap. But it's just at this point, I don't think they would actually do it, just because they seem to be not straying too far from like the norm, essentially. But I mean,
the issue is that it makes sense. That's the issue.
Right. Really, that is the problem.
It is true though, as well. Like we have said many times in the past, and like Proton kind of said the same thing in the chat, right? Is that never say never with Dokkan, right? Because every time something has happened, that, you know, people have always said in the past things like, you know, if we're going back years and years, right? It's like, you know, can't use same name characters on the team, and they changed that. Can't, like, you know, Golden Week was never same time on both versions, and then they decided it was. Like, every now and then, like, they will change something that has been the same for, like, you know, a couple of years in a row, and we just expect it will always be that way, and then they change it. But you would think with the sync like upcoming, that's when they would be making these big moves and these big changes, right, to try and facilitate the sync in a better way. And I think the problem is
Mhm.
because they haven't done a lot of that, it just leaves people a little bit confused about what's going on. Because the schedule, as we would expect it, would be anniversary and then Topo. And then it's like that gap is only like 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And then the next thing starts. But as we've said, right, like Topo just doesn't have enough content left to span across that gap. So who knows what they're going to put in its place, to be honest. I guess we just have to wait and see. But
Yeah. It'll certainly be interesting. I'm really curious how they're going to handle him. I mean, it's funny that we're thinking so much about Topo right now, too, when, like, Tanabata is almost like the bigger thing, to be honest with you. But obviously, you know, I guess we'll burn that bridge when we get to it, huh? Because obviously we have no idea what they're going to do with that at the moment. But anyway, yeah, so is there anything else to be said about Ginyu before we move on? I think I know half of it wasn't even technically about Ginyu, but it's what Ginyu's release means for global, I suppose, is more like it. So
yeah,
It's Ginyu. Ginyu. You know, that's all I can say.
yes.
yeah, it's just, again, it's Omega Shenron all over again, right? It's like they're a really good unit. They just don't really have a team at the moment. If you want Topo's team in the future, they'll be really good on that. But it's not like you need them for Topo's team to be good either. So yeah, they're a good unit. Right. They've just released at a really unfortunate spot. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right, well, with that being said, let's move on to our next topic here. So we talked a little bit about this before, but Global did just receive Fizz Goku Black's Super EZA. Obviously, just like Minato was talking about earlier. Yes, definitely. You know, this was an interesting release because this, you know, just came out on JP to go along with the Fizz Rosé celebration. And obviously, Global did not have this when Fizz Rosé came out on Global. I just said Global like 50 times right there. And obviously now they decided to bring him up early, which is really, really nice to see because obviously, you know, it's just better for Global to just have him now. I mean, there's not really a point to have him be later. So definitely, I would say a W move as well with this guy's release. They also decided to move up Gotenks, like we talked about before. He was in the data download, so that is also nice to see. Obviously, we'll talk about him when he actually releases on Global a little bit, but I figured it was just information that was worth having in the video. He comes out actually, yeah, it'll be between now and the next podcast because he comes out the 26th. On Global, along with that free-to-play Krillin. So we'll talk about him when that time comes, but obviously, Mr. Global Player, I know that, of course, this was something that a lot of Global players were looking forward to, considering the fact that, you know, when the heck would they have actually brought this to Global, considering that it was a part of a Global celebration, or a celebration that was on Global, I guess I should say. So what are your thoughts on this?
That's what's always made any of that stuff confusing, right? Like when we've talked about it in the past where they did it with like the hit celebration and stuff like that, where it's like if they add extra content into a celebration that was a Global first, then it immediately raises that question of, it's like, well, when is Global going to get that? Because we've already had that celebration and that wasn't in it. So obviously they just kind of have to move it somewhere else, which is what they've done. Very, very confusing. Like I will say off the bat, before we start talking about the unit, because he's really good. I'm really happy that we got his Super EZA. I would have preferred getting his over Gotenks if we were only getting one, because I like the Super Bosses team, I like Villain team, that kind of stuff. But the whole thing surrounding that is so confusing how they've done everything, right? Because it was basically, I was breaking it down with Theo before we started, right? But we went into this, I think it was like last Friday morning, I think, was when they revealed Cell Max on Twitter, right, for JP. So JP revealed Cell Max as a Part 2 LR, and Global didn't. So at that point, it was like, okay, because people were like, will we get the same one? Will we get both? No mention of Cell Max on Global. So then it was like, okay, Global must be getting the LR Ginyu Force then, as we kind of expected, because that's what would be in that time slot. If it wasn't for any consideration about the sync or whatever's going on JP, anything like that, it'll be Ginyu Force. So then we get to like, was it like Monday or Tuesday morning, I think, on Global? Tuesday morning, I think. Then they announced Goku Black Super EZA. So at that point, it's like, oh, okay, so we're getting Goku Black Super EZA and not Tech Gotenks, who should come out with the Ginyu Force, really, because special pose and all that. So now I wonder if maybe Global is going to get Cell Max after all. And then literally like an hour later, they tweeted out the details for the Ginyu Force. So it's like, okay, so we're getting the Ginyu Force and the Goku Black Super EZA on the same day. But we're getting the Tech Gotenks Super EZA, the one that actually helps the Ginyu Force, like a week after the Ginyu Force comes out. Which, I mean, if they were going to throw Goku Black in during this period and him be like, you know, quite soon after JP, and obviously, you know, I can't say early on Global because again, it's part of a celebration that we've already had. But if they were going to throw him into this short period of what we're going to essentially call like the part 2 of the Frieza celebration, I guess, it would have made a lot more sense to have Goku Black's one be the one that comes out on Wednesday and have Gotenks come out on the same day as Ginyu. But yeah, all in all, that's the thing that I find the most confusing about the way they've done it, right? Is like they've released these units not with the other units that help them out, like we were saying with Ginyu, right? Is releasing the Gotenks Super EZA on the same day as him would have at least been another buff to the special pose team. But yeah, it is what it is. So we got Goku Black Super EZA. It is in the game. For anyone who is not aware at this point, obviously one of the things that Global players have been looking forward to is the physical Goku Black is just straight up better on Global, right? They have the exact same EZA, the exact same passive, but the Global version of Goku Black has higher stats. So he is just better, which is awesome. So I mean, it's all right. It'll be your guys' turn when
I don't even care about the attack stat, man.
Yeah, it'll be your guys' turn when they decide to EZA the Super Kaioken Goku and the Pycon. Yeah! They'll get their EZAs and then they're better on JP. But anyway, the physical Goku Black is super, super good. I have certainly enjoyed running him the couple of videos that I've done already, trying him out in different events. It's kind of crazy seeing what he gets up to when he's fully built up, because he has to get hit a few times to get his full build up. And then on the turns where you see him fully built up, he can look pretty ridiculous, even with only like 6 orbs, which for a rainbow orb changer, like 6 orbs is not an over the top. Like, you know, you see people will do showcases or like post screenshots of nuking style units and stuff, and it'll be like, oh, this is him with like 15 orbs, and obviously that's not going to happen like every turn. But this guy, when he's fully built up, even with like 6 orbs, he still looks really good. And so then on the turns where you are getting like 9, 10, 11, like he looks crazy. So he's really, really good. Very interesting. However, the one thing I will say as the bit of a drawback, and again, it comes down to, it's almost like the theme of this celebration, right? With Ginyu and then this Goku Black, is they've both released on Global into this like climate on Global where they can't really be run at their full potential because of stuff that isn't out on Global.
Super bosses.
Because yeah, the Global Super Bosses team is a bit like, you know, right? Because that's the only downside with this guy, right? Is you need to have, in order for him to have his rainbow orb changing, which is probably one of the most important parts of his kit that like pulls it all together, is you have to have a full Super Bosses rotation, which means if you're running him as like a floating support unit or something on that team, every unit has to be a Super Bosses unit other than, I guess, the other floaters. Otherwise, you don't get his full passive.
Just go in the Legendary Goku event, man.
So, I mean, the thing is, like, it's not like it's impossible, right? Like, I mean, I ran it against Kid Buu earlier. One of the things I was doing was, like, using, because I wanted to showcase Goku Black, so I kept him on one of the rotations, and then I just put like Kid Buu on the team, physical Kid Buu, and just had him on the other rotation, so they never actually end up together, so it doesn't ruin Goku Black's passive. And like stuff like that can work. It's just a real problem that like it's all Super Bosses or nothing when it comes to that part of his passive. I might test him out in a video and just see how good he is like with a team where he's not having a full Super Bosses rotation, but then you're basically just relying on the luck of the orbs, right? Now, the only thing about that is when the anniversary content comes out, not only does the Super Bosses team get a bunch of buffs, because we get Broly, we get that Int Golden Frieza that is a Super Bosses support unit who's quite good. But then, of course, the other part of his passive is you don't have to have a full Super Bosses rotation if you're fighting a Goku family enemy. And then he will still be a Rainbow Orb Changer. And there are some, obviously, events from the anniversary where that will be relevant. But yeah, it's a little bit of a problem that, like, the team on Global, it is what it is, right? Like, I ended up running, like, I'm running Kefla as a floating unit. I think I was running, like, AGL Zamasu, who can still hang in there sometimes, but, like, obviously, I would say, you know, Minato can probably attest, like, the best, or at least the top 3 Super Bosses builds on, like, JP. You're probably not running AGL Zamasu, right? Like, you've got much better options than him.
No.
Units like the Broly Trio, Easy A, AGL Broly, that Golden Frieza. There's just, of course, Cell Max, who's just come out and is another big bad bosses, like Super Bosses character. So, like, the Super Bosses team on JP, so much better now. Like, that team is, you know, probably like a top tier team with how good Cell Max is. Physical Rose after his buff, especially with the support of Goku Black with the Rainbow Orbs and stuff. Like, Super Bosses is now a really good team on JP. So it's kind of funny that this guy is almost in a similar position to Ginyu, which I guess the silver lining is at least he's not a summonable unit. Like, for a lot of us, he's a character that we've just had for ages already, and you just have to awaken him. But it's one of those things that he will be significantly better in the near future. And just like the Ginyu Force LR, that's not to say he's not good, because his own performance, like in some of these events, I know he's not like the hardest hitting boss or anything, but it's like the Stage 3 of the Majin Buu Red Zone, the absorption one, where it's like Buuhan and a bunch of different Buu-Tankses. The second phase is against an STR Buuhan. And this guy, it wasn't even that many orbs, and he just eats his super attack for like double-digit damage, which is pretty decent. So overall, like, very, very good. Very solid unit with the right setup. So, I mean, I can't really complain, right? Definitely happy with his Super Easy A. It's just... Super Bosses still needs those last few pieces, but we will get some of those with the anniversary. So I'm pretty happy with him overall. Obviously, you guys have got to use him on JP a bit more now with the better Super Bosses team. So I wonder if, you know, we talked about what you guys thought about him when he came out, but especially, like, how do you guys feel about him now, especially with, you know, Cell Max, who we'll be talking about next, like the Super Bosses team in general. Be interested to know what you guys think.
So we're going to talk about Cell Max now, I guess, or we're
No,
still talking about physical Goku Black.
He meant Goku Black.
Yeah, I mean, like, now that you guys, because you've obviously had his
so-
ECA for a little while, and now the
Yeah.
Super Bosses team is just even better on JP. So I wonder how you feel about this Goku Black now.
I think this Goku Black, he's obviously better than he was when he came out, because Cell Max, right? Cell Max, again, it really plays into how good Cell Max is, but what I do in the Super Bosses team, my current rotations right now is I actually run Goku Black next to Broly Trio. Goku Black will create rainbow orbs, and they basically always get their 7 key spheres. They support, and then you get the leftover orbs with Goku Black himself, right? And then you have the Cell Maxes floating, and then depending on the other character, I have, like, you know, sometimes Sleepy Beerus. I have another character. Maybe Fusions of Masu, Tech Fusions of Masu. Maybe in certain situations you could even run the Physical Rose. And then my other rotation is Dragon Ball Super Broly, and then the Int Golden Frieza that came out with him. And then what happens? I really like the team build with Sleepy Beerus because he's also a Rainbow Orb Changer. But what happens is then I have both Cell Maxes and Sleepy Beerus floating, and they all are targets characters. So at the end of the events, my characters might not even get hit at all. And then maybe if that's in that situation, you can give Goku Black a bunch of orbs compared to Broly Trio needing the 7 orbs, because technically they won't get hit anymore, maybe, right? And one extra thing is Broly Trio does also give 10% reduction to the characters after he does his 24 key super attack with his EZA, of course. So Physical Goku Black does also get 10% reduction technically with him on rotation, which is helpful because he doesn't actually have any built-in defensive mechanics. Now, the best thing about these two in terms of 9th anniversary is the attack lowering, right? You have a Broly Trio, greatly lowers attack. Physical Goku Black greatly lowers attack. If you run two Cell Maxes, both of them greatly lower attack. You could run Fusions of Masu, who greatly lowers attack. You could run Sleepy Beerus, when he uses his active skill for the taunts. After that, when he wakes up, he also greatly lowers attack. So you have so many characters on that team who just lower attack to oblivion, and the boss can't even hurt you anymore, right? Which is, I think, one of the big strengths about the Super Bosses team that people don't talk about, is that people are like, oh, things could be dangerous for you once Max uses his guard, maybe, or like uses like his guard runs out, and then after the taunt skill or before it hits, he could be in danger. But the team debuffs the boss so much, right? And like, there's so many bosses now that could be debuffed. The only like really difficult boss right now that can't be debuffed is probably the Beast Gohan fight. But Gogeta can be attack lowered, Kid Buu can be attack lowered, So Max can be attack lowered, right? Most of these bosses now that are like the most hardest ones in the game, they hit you so hard that they're like, yeah, we're gonna also let you be able to lower attack, right? So that's like a huge thing in some of these bosses, being able to lower their attack. And that's why this physical Goku Black, I think he fits the team wonderfully, being another debuffer, rainbow orb changing for a lot of these characters. And I find it very useful to have him on rotation like that. So that's why, again, I have a lot of fun with this guy specifically.
Gotcha. W. Yes, sir. I would agree. It's nice. It is kind of unfortunate that obviously he is not as good on JP, but obviously that doesn't mean he's unusable, right?
Like,
He's
it's not like a huge difference.
Yeah, it's not that big of a difference. I mean, to be fair, it's also like, well, it's just what the case has always been, because he's always been better on global, which is kind of the funny thing. So, but either way, though, that's Goku Black. Very, very excited that he finally got one. I am very much so looking forward to hopefully eventually getting Fizz Rose as well to try him out. I am a certified Fizz Rose hater, I will admit. But I am excited to get this guy purely from the perspective of like, I know.
I'm the lone physical rosé defender on this podcast.
I think he's not bad.
Nah, I'm a hater, bro. My unwarranted hate. They call me a Twitter.com user, bro. I hate for no reason.
I just think he's like too crazy, you know what I mean?
I got you. But anyhow, boo Theo boo. Yeah, I'm keeping coming, baby. But anyway, I am excited to try this guy out with Fizz Rose when I hopefully pull him. I'm hoping to get him from the weekend tickets.
I do think that he's like a lot better than people may realize now, that physical Rose.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because of the buff and everything like that.
Plus, like Cell Max being
luckily he's not
part of the team now as well, like another big bad boss's unit. Pretty good.
I mean, I think the issue is that I just don't see why you would run physical Rose over Broly still, because like the whole thing, like you don't even run double Broly anymore, because there's just like you can't activate both domains. Like, and the thing is, are you gonna run Broly in rotation with like Frieza, or are you gonna run Rose in rotation with Tech Fusion Zamasu? You know, at least with how I run the Super Bosses team, there are definitely builds you could run Rose as in the team though, for sure. He's good enough.
Yeah.
I just feel like you could argue the best team doesn't have him on it.
I think with the buffed is passive, and then like this guy creating rainbow orbs for him, like I feel like he is still effective enough. Like you transform with Broly and have his domain up, and then untransformed Rose is still relatively decent. Like
yeah, you could use him as a floater in the team, right? If you don't want to run like Sleepy Beerus or Tech Fusion Zamasu, I think you could run him. But it's like a thing where like so many of these characters are debuffing. I would almost say like in events that could be attack lowered, like why not just also run Tech Fusion Zamasu, who also will provide another great lower attack debuff, right? And then it's like that's like your 5th debuffer of greatly lowering attack in the team. And one thing is that Broly Trio will actually give him 10% reduction, so he'll have 50% reduction even after his pass runs out. But same thing with Rose, right? Rose can get 40% reduction in the rotation. No matter what, Rose is still very good, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm a hater anymore, but I don't want to say I'm like a mega defender. I just think that he's like
He mellowed out. That's
He
crazy.
could be a little better. He could be a little better, but I'm chill with him. I'm chill with
He
him.
achieves Zen. He straight up is the gif of Thanos sitting down after the end of Infinity War.
I'm chill with him now. Okay,
Fair
That's
enough.
funny. But anyway, moving on to a unit that I am the opposite of a hater of, we have the GOAT Cell Max. That is right. Obviously, this was a very interesting. Oh, and you picked the actual HD art too. Oh, you're such a good man, Ningen. Oh my gosh, my GOAT for real, for real.
We gotta do it.
Nobody doing it like him. But anyhow, yeah, if you're unfamiliar, occasionally Dokkan tweets out the like actual HD art, and this was one of the ones they tweeted recently, so W for sure. But obviously this was a very interesting choice, right? Because for one, before we even like talk about the unit himself, which I'm very happy to report, he's so good, which I'm really glad about. This is a very interesting decision, just like in general, right? Because for one, obviously, Rose did not have a part 2 on his celebration, and so of course, because the timing that this came out on JP, he now is the part 2 for Rose, which at least makes a lot more sense than Super Boo, right? We'll give him that. This is a Super Boss's celebration, right? It checks out in that regard. However, I think it's really interesting because obviously a lot of people wanted this guy to be one of the anniversary units, right? Well, a lot of people wanted this guy to be the unit that paired up with Gohan Beast, because of course this is who Gohan Beast actually fights in the movie, right? Now, I think there's a lot of interesting factors with this. I'm going to talk about this guy for a little bit before I'll let y'all like tackle his kit. But there's some interesting things with this guy. Why I actually think that in the grand scheme of things, and this will lead into my thoughts on the animations. I swear we haven't talked about a unit's animations in so long. We haven't had a new character in like a fat minute since Gohan. But anyway, so I think that honestly, not making him an anniversary character was honestly a good decision, which sounds kind of crazy because I would have disagreed with myself during the anniversary on this, I think. But for one, as much as I love Cell Max, the Gammas are absolutely more hype in general, right? For sure. I think for not just, I mean, like, I like the Gammas better than I like Cell Max. It doesn't mean I don't like Cell Max, but I think in general, in terms of the community and the overall Dragon Ball community, people obviously like, the Gammas more than Cell Max. And Cell Max even, too, has a little bit of a stigma to him, of course, because it's not like, a new perfect Cell. And they use second form Cell, which is obviously people's least favorite form of the character. So he does have a negative stigma to him, even though I don't know how you just couldn't like kaiju monster. Like, do not like Godzilla? I don't understand. But I digress,
Exactly.
right? I think that it made more sense probably to not release this guy during the anniversary from that perspective, because then they were able to give love to a character who is definitely more marketable and more popular. Now, with that also being said, this leads into my point with the animations, right? So obviously this guy is a very, very interesting case when it comes to his animations, right? Because they obviously reused the intro from that original Cell Max raid event, right? And then they also reused the 12 key animation for this guy from the classic, the GOAT, the Cell Max boss, right? Obviously the one that we all know and love, and is basically the bane of the Dokkan community, as it were, right? Everybody gets scared whenever they see that animation because of how many times we saw it during that event when that event was popping back when it first came out. But I think that if they were going to use those animations, right? Because I think it was pretty clear, at least from that intro, right? When that intro animation came out, I think for most people it was pretty clear that it was like, okay, this is going to be the intro for a eventual Cell Max unit, right? Like, I don't think that anybody was not thinking that when that came out. It was pretty obvious that was the case. right? And it was even formatted in the same way as an intro animation. It was like, it would kind of be dumb of them not to use this as an intro because it's literally free real estate. This is like an animation that they already have done, basically. Like, they didn't even have to add anything additional, even though I'm glad that they did, which I'll talk about in a second. But, you know, they didn't even have to add anything to it, and they did. So, which first of all is awesome, but also it's just like they literally already had the intro animation made, so it would have been a little bit foolish of them not to use it for a proper character. Now, with that being said, right, it was nice to see that they did tweak the 12 key a little bit, because obviously, right, it's not exactly the same. It is similar, but the lighting is a lot different. The assets are not the exact same ones. They are new assets, right? They made it fit a lot more with the look of the movie. Obviously, some of the actual actions that Cell Max does are changed in this animation. So it's nice to see that they spice it up a little bit and they didn't just, like, you know, give you the same thing and then called it an LR, because that would have felt a little bit stinky for sure. It would have been like, okay, so half this guy's animations are reused. You know, and as well, even with the intro, right, they added the beginning part of the dials and then the color going on to Cell Max from like the spray when he's in the tube. So it was cool that you know, they remade the animations a little bit, because it made it feel like you know, that these were actually a little bit more for this specific card rather than just reusing animations from before. And I guess, to be fair, this is a good way to do it if they want to have you know, like a unit to push out before for a super big celebration, because I'm sure the designers were like thanking Kami himself that they didn't have as much work to do on this guy right before the Tanabata LR, because obviously that's one of the bigger LRs of the year, and of course that takes a lot of effort on their part. So I think that in that aspect of things, I'm pretty satisfied with the way that the reused animations were handled. I don't think that it's a bad thing. You know, I think it's a very case-by-case basis whether these reused animations are really a bad thing for Dokkan. I think for me in this one, it was fine. I think it also, too, then leaves room in the future for a potential another Cell Max card to eventually come out. Which, granted, unfortunately, knowing the superhero marketing from following merchandising from Dragon Ball and stuff, we're probably not going to get any new superhero characters for 2 to 3 years. Because we're not even going to be getting any more superhero merchandise already, because Toei and Shueisha marketed the movie that poorly. Thanks, guys. Love you. Hopefully you don't fumble with Daima. But with that being said, at least we do have a very good Cell Max to kind of round out all of the different big boy characters from superhero. Hopefully we will still get like a standalone Orange Piccolo at some point. But in terms of the animations that were obviously brand new, I think they did a very good job with the 18 key. Obviously, that AoE was super cool with all the laser beams and stuff like that. Even using that scene where Pan was flying out from the energy, right, as basically like the energy landing on the ground for the AoE, I thought that was super creative. And obviously, basically doing like a what if Cell Max won type of thing for the active skill, where he throws the ball down, that obviously Gohan blasts away with the special beam cannon. So that was pretty cool too, and it looks fantastic, right? They did a very good job mixing the art style of like superhero and Dokkan for this guy, because I was talking about like when the superhero units first started coming out, they really tried to get that CG style, and it was like just trying to recreate the movie. And as time went on, they sort of mixed the Dokkan art style and the CG art style to kind of make a hybrid thing, which I almost think works better, because looking at the CG just like with all these other cards that are more 2D animation styles, like, whoa, this is like out of place. So I think doing that is honestly better for the game. So I think they did a very good job. The only thing that was a little off-putting was that Cell Max's explosion is when Kid Buu blows up the planet. And it's really weird because it goes from like that hybrid CG Dokkan style into straight up like Dragon Ball Z art style when the planet explodes at the end of his active skill, which is quite strange, to be honest with you. I honestly think the reason why they just did it was because of the fact that the explosion is red and green, so it matches Cell Max colors. I'm not talking about like the ball that explodes on the planet. I'm talking about when the planet like actually blows up. So kind of funny, to be honest with you. It's a little bit like off-putting because it's like, whoa, hello. It looks like they just cut to a scene from Dragon Ball Z, but it's not that big of a deal, to be honest with you. So overall, I think they did a very good job with this guy's animations. I'm very satisfied with them personally. I'm glad that at least Dokkan, of all things, gave Superhero some love. It's nice to see that the Dragon Ball games appreciate Superhero, considering that the people who made it don't, apparently. So anyway, obviously that's enough of my my TED talk on this guy's animations. I am very happy to report as well, and I'll let y'all talk about the kid as well. I'll throw it over to Minato, but I am very glad that he is also very good too, because I was really like gonna be very sad if he came out and he was like honestly just not that good and kind of a stinky unit, to be honest with you, especially considering how long we have been waiting for this guy at this point. Because if you think about it, what's so crazy is that this guy's like intro animation technically came out like 2 years ago, because that Cell Max event came out 2 years ago, which is honestly kind of crazy to think that like, yeah, because I looked it up for the video. I was like, it doesn't feel like it, but it is. I looked up the date. It's just about 2 years. It's not exactly 2 years, but it's like right under it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. So
I was gonna say, I remember the morning that event came out, and I streamed until I beat it for the first time, and it took me like 3 hours.
Yeah, bro. Oh, actually, wow, I'm not gonna lie. That was a great time, though. That was like one of the most fun times in the Dokkan community. I feel like when the Cell Max event was going on, because everybody was just going crazy trying to beat it. It was a good time. But I digress. It is kind of crazy to think that that means that like we sort of could have had a Cell Max unit like almost 2 years ago. Because obviously they had some animations for it, but we only just got one now, which is kind of insane to think about. And obviously that's also partially because of the Toei leak, and then the movie got delayed and all that type of stuff, right? So like that's neither here nor there. That's part of the reason why a lot of the superhero stuff in Dokkan got delayed, right? So, you know, part of the reason why we're only at this point getting Cell Max. But either way, just some interesting food for thought. I thought that event came out so long ago, and that animation has been in the game for so long. Oh, and the final thing I'll say is his OSTs are fantastic. If you haven't listened to them, please do. They're great. They're some of the most unique OSTs in the game. They really, really fit him. So definitely huge W on that part. But anyway, Mr. Number 2 in the game, according to some tier lists that I've seen floating around, Minato, throw it over to you. What do you think about the big bad man himself?
It's funny, I haven't made a tier list for that yet. I should I might do that after the podcast.
There you go.
Funny, I didn't do one for Physical Goku Black either, so maybe I'll do that too.
True.
Anyways, continuing on, Cell Max is stupid, dumb, incredible, amazing. It's like a thing where I think you saw him on paper and you could tell he's really good, just because his stats are just so huge. He gets so just it's just stupid. Goes the fact that he has the Fortune Guard, and then he has the 30% reduction, right? This is on his ideal setup, but I think he gets what? He gets like 500% attack and defense, and then he builds up a multiplicative 100% attack and defense. So it's just a thing where his stats are just so obscenely high with the guard and 30% reduction, right? Considering all those together. And the fact that he's great lowering attack, right? But then the thing is that he just also shoots up just incredible damage, right? He does easy like 20 mils on his first attack stat. Then he's starting to build up over and over. And then he gets like 16 mil additional, 17 mil additional, 18 mil additional, and it's like this is really like, damn. that's the only way I can describe it, man. It was like, oh, okay. And the thing I really like about him is he wants to get built up, and he has insanely huge value as someone early on. So he can help you prepare your rotations, man. Like if you have, like, let's say in the Super Bosses team, like what I like to do is I like to run Broly trio, like I said, and physical Goku Black. Let's say they're on the opposite rotations from each other, and you need to keep one on rotation, but then float the other one off. And it's like, well, okay, my rotations are going to get a little messed up. You can keep one of the Cell Maxes, like let's say you have Cell Max on the rotation with the Broly trio, right? And Broly trio would usually be like a slot 1. You just keep Cell Max in slot 1 in the first 3 turns. You float Broly trio off. When he comes back around, you could put him on rotation with the physical Goku Black, right? Things like that. Cell Max being able to sit in slot 1 for his first 2 turns is very huge value, right? And then after, when he has intro runs out, you'll just have a rotation set, which is again like on turn 5, turn 6, you'll have a rotation set. And then you have him floating around, and he has his target skill, which could be activated in turn 4 if there's a full super bosses or artificial life forms rotation. And with that, his target skill gives him 999% defense, right? And it's an attack. So he's getting rid of like 2 of the enemy's HP bar, right? But then he's also getting like 13 to 20 mil defense with his 30% reduction. And then if he uses it on turn 4, he's also technically, oh no, he only guards for 3 turns, my bad. But if he's on turn 4, he still has his 30% reduction with that amount of defense. That defense is so high, you can grab 1 STR key sphere and you heal full health, because you're healing with key spheres that you grab. That's based off of your defensive stat. So obviously, since he has like 15 to 20 mil defense or something like that, you grab 1 STR key sphere, he's full healing you, right? Which is also a very valuable thing. But then again, him being able to also carry the damage massively is really good. I like that he also adds another debuff to the team. This guy is so useful for the Super Bosses team and such a powerful offensive defensive combo character. Like he's just like he's literally pretty much just like a modern version of Tech LR Jiren, if you're around when Tech LR Jiren came out, except he's also protecting the entire rotation with the target skill. But he's pretty much just a modern Tech LR Jiren. Big, beefy stats, but then obviously with a modern kit, you have additionals, you have build and crit, target skill, debuffing, right? Really, really, really crazy character. And his link set's great. He's so good that what you end up doing is you end up running him as a friendly regardless, even though he's only on 150% leader skill. Because what you do is you run, let's say, Broly as your leader, right? Broly's giving 200%. So Max is giving 150%. It's essentially, it adds up to basically being running double 170% leader skills, which is enough to clear the content in the game. Maybe if you're running double 150% leader skills, it'd be tough. But since Broly's at 200%, you run Broly as a leader, or I guess you could technically run Rose, but Cell Max is not under Rose's 200%. Run Broly as a leader, Cell Max on your team, then a friend Cell Max, because that'll even up to 350%, which is technically a little higher than double 170% leader skills. But you get basically a buff that's more than enough. And then you also get a character like Cell Max, because the thing about running double Broly is right now you can't use both Broly's domains. So what you want to do is with a second Cell Max, you are able to use a second target skill no matter when in the fight you are, as long as it's turn 4 onward, and you're getting a second slot 1 character early on, which is going to be really nice for you as well. And a second debuffer, he also lowers attack, right? So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty sick. I do like the Cell Max and what he's able to do. Plus, in the future, we don't even know if the domain of update is going to allow you to override other domains. We don't know what the update's going to be. So for all we know, this could be the team you're going to be running in the future regardless. Cell Max, it just at its core is probably just still better than Transform Broly regardless too, right? Just because he has the target skill and he's doing damage on par with that Broly sometimes. It's absolutely crazy, especially in the active skill turn. You get the active skill up and you do so much extra damage too. I just this guy's silly. He for Yellow Coin and with Pity, it's actually kind of crazy how good he is. Mine's at 69%, but a lot of people actually are setting him as their friend leads. I've been able to use Truth's Rainbow one a couple times, and it's like, goodness, dude. The only character I would say is probably better than this guy is just Beast Gohan, because I think it's more closer to the small things. Beast Gohan is just able to be in his prime for a much longer time. Beast Gohan has obviously just a much superior leader skill, right? We can't prove that. Beast Gohan's just on a better team with the superheroes team. But Super Bosses right now is still like a top 3 team in the game, honestly, at this point, because of the Cell Max, and his value cannot be understated. I think especially if you're a Cell Max like major fan, or not even Cell Max, but Super Bosses major fan, you're gonna want to save for the Cell Max 100%. So yeah.
Isn't it crazy? I just can't believe we live in a world where Gohan, Beast, and Cell Max are the top 2 units in the game. That like actually blows my mind.
Yeah.
As a superhero fan, especially, bro. I can't believe it. Actually insane in the memory. But yeah, so very, very cool.
One last thing I want to say is, imagine if this guy was a Carnival R and you could run 2 of them as a 200% leader skill.
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
That he might genuinely potentially be the best unit in the game if you could run 2 of them under 200% leader skill. Because I've been using them under double 170%.
If it was like Super Bosses 200% or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so crazy. I kind of wish he was, but
It's so weird because it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like you can't pity him if he was a Carnival unit, but he has a worse leader skill because he's a gold coin LR.
I'm fine with how things are. I mean, it would have been nice if he was a leader, but like running Bro as a leader, it's not like I'm like, oh no, and it's like not having a full 200%. We would get an extra, again, 50% stats, which do matter, but it's not like something where I'm really sad about it, right? I'm just like,
yeah,
it's more of a luxury.
Oh man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like one thing you could say is that like the LR Gammas didn't necessarily really have to be a Carnival, because we already had a really good leaders.
Yeah.
So like getting a Carnival or Cell Max that led Super Bosses 200% would probably have been better, but also they probably didn't want to give 2 of the same leader skill. Well, I would say that, but we got 2 superheroes leaders.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could have gotten it, but it's whatever. I think the Cell Max, no matter what, he's still as good as he should be, right? So he's anniversary unit level 100%, which I think is if he was like bad, people would be. It would be so disappointing, but they did good for villains. Let's go, villains buffs. That's awesome.
I know, like the basically second best unit in the game is an extreme unit. How crazy is that? But
I know.
Last time that happened was like Final Form Cooler.
Yeah. So yeah,
I can't believe it.
The thing I wanted to say as well that is really good is,
go for it.
I think you both touched on it briefly at one point anyway. It's just the fact that because he's a yellow coin LR, which means he has the pity thing. So he's like, essentially, like if we're just going to say he's number 2, even not, he's like one of the best units in the game, and you're guaranteed to get a copy of him if you do a certain number of summons, which is insane. Like, because if he was a Carnival LR, then you could get super unlucky and drop loads of stones on his banner and still not get him. But yeah, he has the pity system built in, which means when he comes to global, he should have those ticket packs, which, as I was saying previously with my summons for Ginyu, like the same thing happened with Gohan as well, where if you're getting those ticket packs that give you the extra coins, it's only taking you like 400 stones to get to the pity like limit, which is insane. Like,
oh my
obviously
gosh,
you have to buy the ticket packs as well, but like it's
you global player. Oh my goodness, we're talking about JP release,
but like this guy's just crazy. Like, he is one of those units that he is. Yellow coin LRs are those banners that very often come under the like easy skip. Like we mentioned it earlier, right? We say that a lot about certain banners, and some are easier than others, in that same category. But this guy's one of those banners that's like really hard to skip because he's so good, and you're guaranteed to get him if you do enough summons. So it's
I just
it's
don't
crazy.
Like I wouldn't even say it's a skip if you like Super Bosses. Like,
I mean, if he's number 2 in the game, I wouldn't say he's a skip at all.
The thing is
but
I'm
also biased, so.
Well, the thing is that
listen, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak on it.
Because the thing is that you gotta be like the best unit in the game, but if your banner sucks, then you don't summon on the banner, right? You just wait till they're back on.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say about that. Ironically, once again, not to speak about this, I suppose, but unfortunately, I am the only L, frankly, in my opinion. that Cell Max is taken is that his banner sucks.
His banner is like it's bad.
So
But at least
in Rose,
there's
here's the thing. In Rose, he's good. He's fine. Int Golden Frieza, he's all right. He's usual, right? Frieza just came out.
Int Golden Frieza is pretty good. I think he's
Int Golden Frieza is good. Trico. Yuck!
That's crazy. It's like
AGL Goku Black. Yuck!
No. You know what? I'm gonna say Tree Goku is more relevant right now than Int LR Rose. And the reason why
crazy
is because they revamped the Bardic event where you need to use this guy. The True My Goku is crazy in that Bardic event, and you get.
But guess what? I don't care.
No. You should care. You get like 34 stones. You get 300 blue Link Skullorps. Ningen, I know you know my pain. Blue Link Skullorps. You cannot tell me there's such a small amount of blue Link Skullorps.
Are they the small ones?
And golden ones if you buy the pack every month. Yeah, the small ones.
Yeah, they're the hardest. They're the hardest ones to get.
Exactly, right?
But then, to be fair, I never use them though. I don't use the orbs until I get units to at least like 5 and 6 anyway. So
you're insane, dude. I just get the character. I just instant maximum.
It's so easy to just do a couple of runs on the quest mode and get them all up to like 3s and 4s, and then you don't have to.
Let me ask you this.
Let me tell you this thing. When the anniversary characters come out, you're gonna sit there and grind Gogeta.
Not for the anniversary characters, but that's different.
Yeah, exactly. Get cooked. Tanabata next week, dude. You get 300 blue Link Skullorps. 300. You know how many characters? Wait
a minute. Don't you have 1,000,000 keys?
I think I have 100.
No. I know you do, and you use them fairly. Ningen, don't you have 1,000,000 keys and you don't use them? Really?
No, I have 150 keys right now. Or something like that.
Oh yeah, the link level.
Ningen, don't you have a bunch of keys? I swear.
The link level keys, I think I've got 95 or something. I don't use them that often, but I make sure I
use them for the enemy.
I always just make sure I have 45 keys so that when the heroes units come out, I was just getting them all to link level 10 instantly. But we didn't have the link skill orbs back then, so.
How do we tell him? Oh man, I gotta tell you.
Can't wait till the November episode.
Listen, that we're holding our bated breath until then, quite frankly.
But no, the blue orbs are funny. But yeah, we're talking about the banner. I'm getting off topic. But yeah, no, the banner sucks. But it's a thing where you get him guaranteed eventually, and I think that's the most value of any of the other banners in terms of purely summoning. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think 3+1 on anniversary banners with the entire banner is good. Is the banner I would say that, but this is is this banner compared to even the Tanabata banner? I would say this banner might be more worth summoning up potentially than Tanabata. We'll see, but it's highly possible Tanabata next week might not even be as good as a Cell Max, and then it's a thing where Cell Max is spinning. Right.
It's crazy that you say that. I feel like people's knee-jerk reaction to hearing that would be oh my god, what's wrong with you? How could you say that? Look at Super Saiyan 4 Goku and tell me that you don't agree.
I don't think they're gonna mess up like him again. I think they learned their mistake. This year has been really good.
I don't know, bro. I swear, I genuinely feel like every year the Tanabana unit, maybe it's not as many as I think, because maybe my saltiness for Super Saiyan 4 Goku is showing a little bit, but I swear half the time the Tanabata unit just falls off so hard.
Okay, so
it's really hit or miss.
Let's go back. We had Vegeta Trunks, which is
they're fine. I think they aged well. Yeah, I think that one is definitely.
Well, yeah, okay, you're kind of right. Tanabata unit is sometimes wonky because we had the year before Tech Super Gogeta, which he actually did phase well-ish into the 7th anniversary content, but he wasn't good. He was just an option we had to use because we had no one else. Before that was Blue Calcutta and Evolution Vegeta, which never got their partner when they were pre-ZA, and then they became their own Rainbow Orb Changer anyways. Then year before was Gohan and Goten, which were good, but they were wonky in the sense of key. And the year before that was Tech Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which was good. So I think a lot of the times these characters come out and they're a little wonky. Super Saiyan 4 Goku's gonna release, the issue is that he was built for the Omega event, and then they brought out like 6 stages of the event that he wants to be the opposite of, right? He wants longer events. And then they came out with the 9th anniversary with these long events, and then his stats half the time are just not good enough. So
honestly, genuinely, like I know that this is not realistic because Dokkan will be Dokkan and they'll do this again, since unfortunately, I mean, I haven't really done it that often, to be 100% honest with you. I think people were really worried when the Cooler Worldwide was happening, and then it was kind of prominent in there. But I really hope that they don't make units for specific events, because I feel like that just always ends in disaster. It's just never great, because it's like it's the whole thing is that it really, that is like some gacha game scumminess, right? We talk about all the time that like Dokkan is just a gambling game, but like that's even worse, because at least with a lot of these other characters, they have some legacy to them where you can use them for a long time. For a character like that, it's such a predatory business practice, because you're paying for a character to be an event one time that's only relevant for that specific celebration, and then you never use the character again. And not to mention the rewards that you get for the event that you need said character for are nowhere near the amount of resources that you took you to get the character in the first place.
One time that is funny. It's like a thing where, well, people are like, oh, I have to summon for these villains for these extreme class missions, and the extreme class mission gets you like 10 stones.
Right?
And then it's
exactly.
Like you pour like hundreds of stones into it. And then it's like, it's funny in that regard, right? So it's like you might as well skip out on getting those characters and then go for the stronger teams that could be applicable towards like a more wide variety of stuff, like super classes teams, right?
Exactly.
So that's a funny thing you could argue, but at the end of the day, summon for you want if you want to.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I mean, yeah, for sure. I will say I do think it is a bit of a shame, only because of the fact that like with Super Saiyan 4 Goku specifically, I know we bring him up all the time, I swear, but man, he's so cool, dude. He just blows. Like, it's just so unfortunate. It really stinks, because it's like it almost kind of makes me want another one, because I feel like if we just had another one that was better, then I wouldn't feel as bad about it, which is kind of dumb to say, because then it's like, oh well, another summonable premium unit when the regular one could have just been good. But I don't know. Either way, though, I do hope that they do actually make the Tanabata unit good. It will be very interesting to see what the Tanabata unit ends up being. Obviously, we are actually quite close, believe it or not, to the Tanabata unit being shown off, which is kind of crazy to think about, considering it's kind of funny with Dokkan. I swear it always is like the same thing, where it's like a huge dry period, and then there's like a billion content all at once. They've been better about it in more recent time, but I swear, like, at least recently, that's kind of how it's felt, where it's been like super dry until Cell Max just dropped. But anyway, with all that being said, right, do we have anything else about Cell Max? We've established that he's him. We've established superhero on top, baby. Do we have anything else before we move on to the next topic?
One thing I will say, I do love when Dokkan does funny things for characters. Just like, they don't necessarily have to, but they do like something a little bit differently, right? So like, for example, like Harudagan's giant form, back when AGL Tapion came out, right? Giant form units don't take any damage anyway, so he could have just been a normal giant form unit and he doesn't take damage, but they made him dodge everything because it's like relevant to what Harudagan does in the movie. I love the fact that instead of giving Cell Max like with his taunt ability, rather than just giving him like guaranteed dodge like Gogeta or something, they gave him this like insane level of defense where he like just nothing in the game can do damage to him. Like, I've seen screenshots, I think it was from like a Rainbow showcase with support or something, but like the screenshot where on the active skill turn he has like 17 million defense, and it's like, there's literally nothing in the game that can actually do damage to him. But like, rather than giving him 99% damage reduction or dodge or something. They just gave him the most insane raw defense number that you could like ever see, which I think is hilarious. So I think that's
It's
very
pretty
cool.
They definitely cooked. We love when they give them funny mechanics that are actually good, that are relevant to their actual character. Huge W. But anyhow, I mean, not to anything else before we move on.
Not really. So Max Pog is awesome. I just think he's
Amen.
fantastic. Before I go on another rant for him, he's
The goat, yes sir. Well, now's your time to shine, my friend, because we're moving on to some funny world tournament easy A's. That's right.
I'm not even farming it this time. I just don't even care. I was streaming last night,
Yeah.
and then I was it was like I streamed for an hour, and then I'm like, man, it's only an hour in, and I'm so tired. I was like, you know what, I'm going to sleep. I just don't care
That's
anymore.
fair.
Like
fair.
I want to get top 2K, but that's it. And it's like right now, top 2K. When I checked like 2 hours ago, top 2K was like 30 mil points. So it's like, okay, we'll have to do the bare minimum anyways. So I'm not even gonna bother. Maybe top 2K is like 50 mil points, and I could easily grind that in like one day, right? So it's a thing of I don't care about getting top 1 local anymore. Like, is it gonna matter if I rainbow peel off? No, I don't care about rainbowing peel off anymore, right? Like these world tournament units are not good enough for me to put my time into, like that. You know, like I used to. When I could just be doing like anything else. I could be on Honkai Star Rail during that time. You know, it's kind of
This
crazy.
is true. A much better game than the entirety of the world tournament mode. This is
Let's talk about Star Rail instead of this. Hey, you so much for Firefly?
I was gonna say, hey yo, Firefly time, baby.
Wait, before we continue, I got E2S1 Firefly.
W.
I'm going for E1 Rod. I got her. I did like 3 multis, and I got 2 copies of her.
Nice.
And then I got the next copy, I think, in like another 3 multis.
Dang!
So,
oh my god!
crazy!
That's
I was like,
insane.
oh my God. Yeah, and I just got her light cone.
I was gonna put on some like elevator music and bring up a screen that says like technical difficulties or something.
I'm summoning for the E1, but okay. Anyways, world tournament, dude. Yeah, no, the world tournament is just so.
What a time to be alive. Well,
boring.
tell us at least, besides our glorious world tournament endeavors, tell us about these 2 fine ladies on the screen before us here. We got the Kaling Caulifla.
Oh, I do want to say one thing before we continue about world tournament and farming. People wanted me to try Max. I have a video on him on the channel because if you guys don't know, Max is actually an AoE on his 12 key, on his 18 key. Sorry, he's actually like not bad. It's just you could definitely tell there's gonna be key issues.
Oh, for world tournament, you
set
mean?
him up. Yeah,
Gotcha.
because we know that he's what's it called? You only have 1 leader, right? So he's missing on 3 of the key. And he's a character that wants to build up keys. So it could be an issue with building that up. But the good thing is that he does a lot of damage. So he's basically always going to one-shot. He has built-in crits. And if you guys didn't know, points are determined by the amount of damage you could do to the enemy, which is why a lot of the top tier world tournament players do actually still use S tier Piccolo because you guarantee crits and that adds more damage. So Cell Max is able to have built-in crits by 30%, not a lot, but still more than Mon Jr., who doesn't have any built-in crit, right? The only thing is that it's just like, again, you have to like use items more often, and it's just and it's an annoying thing where it's like it's just much rather would run double Mon Jr. You could theoretically run like LR Ginyu as a leader and then have Mon Jr. on that team, which is I might switch over to that where I run Ginyu as my leader, and then I put like instead of LR Majin Vegeta, I put Cell Max in the team because Cell Max's super attack animation is also relatively fast. But that's all I'm gonna say. Cell Max's animation is actually again fast enough so where I think he's still one of the better World Tournament characters. Anyways, talking about the Kale Caulifla, Kale kind of sucks because she has 70% guard and she wants a Caulifla on rotation. The issue with that is that we have like the Inch Khalifa looks like she'll be good. But the stack Kale, it's like you're not running too many Khalifas on the team. And she's also RNG dependent on her additionals and her stacking. She has to take 6 attacks, apparently, reading that. I didn't even see that before. No, I don't like this tech Kale. I think she sucks. Honestly, she might just suck. She's a 60% support to Universe 6 Pure Saiyans, but I just like she'll die. Like she doesn't
She'll
guard,
die.
and she's
Yeah.
done, right? She doesn't guard, and she's done. That's it. Well, the thing about Ink Khalifa is that you're running Ajo Kills like Laser Leader, or you have Ajo Kill on the team for sure. You have the Elric and Khalifa. I think you'll probably run them around the Universe 16 probably. And then obviously if you have like a friend Kale, you have like multiple kills that are running around. I think it's going to be a lot more common to see that. And she does have 70% dodge chance, which is going to be more reliable than a 70% chance to guard, because that could proc at every attack, unlike guard, which only is a one-time proc, right? You either get it or you don't, and if you don't, it's silly, right? So one last thing about her is that she does also have a stacking and additionals too. So theoretically, she could get like enough defense to tank normals with a 70% chance dodge. And she has pretty decent multiplicative stats that can build up relatively quick. So I do like her actually. I think the Int Khalifa looks like a pretty nice free to play character. It's like a 9-day difference. Because if Kale had guard guaranteed, then it'd be a different story.
It's just another, like, it exacerbates that problem that already exists on the Universe 16, where it's like there's not enough Khaliflas to run all of these different Kales that want to have a Khalifla on rotation with them, right? Because it's like the problem with STR Kale, when the other one's got their easy A's, is you're running Kale as the leader, you're running, like, Tech Khalifla, but then you're kind of like, there's not really any other meta-relevant Khaliflas. So having the Int one to add on the team is useful, but you're probably then, if you have to choose between the two, you're going to run the STR Kale over this Tech one, I would imagine. So it's she kind of ends up... The support is really cool, obviously, having like a 60% support unit, but she's probably just not really good enough to make the team, which is a little bit unfortunate.
I mean, like, she doesn't even support the, like, arguably the best character on the team is STR Kafla, right? She only will give 20% to her. So, because obviously STR Kafla is not on Pure Saiyans. She should be, but she's not. So that's another issue you could say, is that, you know, she's not providing the best character in the team support anyways. So that's another, right? Like, if... How do I explain it? No, I just, like, I'd rather run STR Kaba, like, have STR Kaba in the team than run STR Kill anyways and get the, like, full passive from him with the guard, and he's providing 60% support, right? That's, even though it's only 2 Kefla, it's still a difference, right?
Yeah. I think that's just the kind of thing, unfortunately, that just sort of like sucks about these characters, that like they want to have them have some like type of some type of thing where they like go well with another unit. But unfortunately, because of the fact that they don't have any they don't have that many like versions of that character, just because of the nature of said character, right? I think it unfortunately just kind of leads it with a case of, well, you have no options, or the options that are there aren't the best options.
No,
like, it would be different if it was like Goku family stuff, right? But with
another
characters like this who don't have that many.
I was going to say, that Tech, Kale, and Khalifa need to get an EZA, and that'll be massive for the Universe 6 team.
Int Khalifa does lower attack. And she has, like, after she dodges, and as long as there's a Kale rotation, she has the potential of triple super, right? Because she has a guaranteed additional with Kale, a super, and then she has an additional to high chance after she dodges 6 attacks and the hidden potential. She could super 4 times and lower attack 4 times. That's actually pretty good, thinking about it. With a 70% chance of dodge for a free character, might not actually be too bad, right? Because that's obviously a lot of stacks, but I think the attack lowering is like really nice. Have her floating around and just like debuff like Kid Buu, right? 4 times. That can be pretty sick.
Yeah.
Her super attack is other too, so it's like it won't get like nullified.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I guess they are right. You know what I'm saying?
Did they update the super attack animation? I'm taking
no, which also blows. that I saw like Dokkan World uploaded like new Kale and Caulifla, right? Like super attack animation. I was like, oh, sick! What do we got? Whole lot of nothing, baby.
They're exact same. Why they
Yep.
they literally changed nothing.
They changed nothing, which really sucks. I don't know. I understand sometimes why they don't change some of these characters.
That was
Huh?
clickbait from not Dokkan Assets.
Yeah.
Dokkan World clickbait.
Clickbait, bro. It's crazy. I feel it kind of stinks because it's like when they give these units updated animations, I always appreciate it, but like sometimes I get it because it's like, dog, realistically, who in their right mind is really going to be using these characters on like a super consistent basis? But at the same time, you're telling me they couldn't have just thrown like a couple of extra nice looking PNGs in there and called it a day rather than just kept it what it is? I don't know. I feel like they could have done something. But oh well. It is what it is. At least they're not like, at least it's not like a character that, would be somebody that you're really, really using. But then again, when you say that, I guess you could just apply it to like, well, like, you can make all these excuses. I don't know, bro. Little bit of copium on my part, little bit of anti-copium on my part. But either way, though, yeah. I don't really have any thoughts on these units to keep it 100 with you. The old brain is empty on that one. So, Ningen, if you don't have anything else, I guess it's time to move on to the trash.
Yeah, I didn't get the art up for them because I know there's rather than just go through all of them because I know there's a couple of easy A's for the World Tournament on JP as well. I think the AGL Vegito one looks kind of interesting, but I think doesn't his passive still have the wording where he actually has to attack in slot 1 to get dodge, which is awkward. There's the Int Gohan that looks like a pretty decent support unit. I think the Int TN, as like the DB Saga one, the 4-arm TN, actually looks quite good just from reading his passive. But yeah, those are the ones that are like just coming out on JP. And then of course Global is getting a World Tournament next weekend, which is I think the same thing that happened last year, right? Where it's like right before the anniversary, the last weekend of June. So that'll be the one for Global with the STR High School Gohan and the Tech Mr. Boo.
So regarding these JP like EZAs that we haven't talked about yet, I might as well just hop right into them real quick. You said Tian. Tian actually, from what I saw, if you get good RNG with him, he could do good numbers. The biggest issue is he doesn't want to be against Turtle Squad enemy. Not really a lot of those. And he wants to be on Dragon Ball Saga. That said enough, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue. His numbers could look good in a vacuum, right? But it's a thing where the conditions really hurt him. And it's like he doesn't really have a true spot where he could really take advantage of all the tools that he has in his kit, right? Which is a little unfortunate for this guy. Now, I guess we'll talk about the next Dragon Ball unit character, Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi actually seems like she could be interesting. She does debuff the attacked enemy for 3 turns, 22%, right? Attacking defense. I kind of like that, but she wants. Okay, so she gets 80% chance to dodge apparently when she's under. Wait, let me take a look here. Oh, okay, wait. I see. Oh, no, never mind. She gets 70% chance to dodge when HP is 49% or below, yeah. Like, she has to be under that threshold. Otherwise, she only has a 30% chance. She's not really guarding or anything. She gets super effective, right? She needs to get her defense on super, which is not bad, right? I don't know. She's kind of like a free-to-play physical Rose. Right. It almost feels like because she has the Rose mechanic where she gets an additional super after doing 5 attacks performance.
Yeah.
She has built-in normals. Like she's kind of like just a free-to-play physical Rose, and it's like that's a good design, but she doesn't want to go rotation, and I don't know. She's physical too. I don't think she'll have bad numbers. I just feel like she's just not her stats are just not high enough, potentially. She also doesn't raise defense on her super attack effect, so great. I don't know why she doesn't have a defense raise on her super attack effect. Link set wonky, just the usual stuff, right? With these characters. Vegito seems like he could potentially be decent, right? He has the 70% chance to dodge in slot 1. Now they did fix him. where he used to have 70% chance to dodge as the first attacker,
Yeah.
but now it's 70% chance to dodge in the first slot. That if you guys
Okay.
are confused about what I mean by that, JP has in the JP version, there's a text difference between first attacker and then in the first slot. That Global never implemented that change. Even though like there's some characters even nowadays that get that difference where it's a thing of if you're the second or third attacker, then let's say if you have an active skill, right, you could use that and then you can get that buff. Otherwise, if it's a second or third slot or the first slot, like for example, I said it weird. As the first attacker, like let's say you're in slot one and as the first attacker you have a 50% chance dodge. Dodge won't activate until you attack, even in slot one. But as the first slot, it will activate before you attack, right? And that's the thing with this Vegito that they fixed, which they haven't ever done that with a character before, which is why I really want to highlight that. Because
That is
when a
good,
character easy aid, they will just simply keep it like that, right? Yeah. So I forgot who it was that easy aid semi recently that did not get the change, right? And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But now they do have the change, which is actually really, really good. So that will potentially, like, let's say LR God Goku and Hit is another character where in slot one they have dodge chance, but it's as the first attacker, not as the first or second slot character. So they could change that and maybe God Goku and Hit on easy 8 could dodge slot one, stuff like that, which would be really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I think I would like it if he had maybe a debuff instead of the attack raise of the turn. I don't really care about that. But he does raise all allies attack by 30% for the turn. He can get a guaranteed additional super against a Busaga enemy. He's supporting Busaga allies, but like, well, I think it's 50% stats essentially. So like I've seen people like pair this guy with S tier Vegito, and S tier Vegito goes absolutely crazy. So that could be pretty cool, right? This guy like giving so much attack buff to that Vegito, especially on his counters, because the super attack effect raise for all allies will directly feed into the counters, which is nice. Then we have the kid Gohan, who, like, again, his stats could look nice, everything like that, but you want, I mean, you don't need Android Saga allies for this guy to be good, but he wants a Master and Cinnabon ally in the same turn, which, you know, if you're running like Beast Gohan's team, like you can get that easily. But he's supporting Android Cell Saga characters. And it's like if you are not running Android Cell Saga characters, then what's really the point of bringing this guy? I think the biggest thing for him is that whilst he has the guard, he has the 6 turns, 50% attack and defense raise, which is really nice. Actually, they do like that quite a bit. But obviously, I think the thing that's intended for him is that he's on the Android Cell Saga like team as a support character that's 50%, and that team's not really good anymore. So, but I think like you could put him on the Music On team, and he could be like a nice little free to play floating character potentially. But that's all I'd say. Probably better than, like, in terms of usability. You could argue him as the best one in this batch, either him or Vegito, though.
Interesting.
That's my little rankings of the kits. I haven't been able to use the characters yet, but obviously that's just, you can, with these free to play characters especially, I think you can kind of tell on paper. But we'll see. Maybe some people use them more, and it's like, oh well, you know, I kind of change my mind about it.
I got you. All right, well, I think that's basically everything, unless Ningen had something else.
No, that's it really. Like I say, I reading through all their kits, I kind of would have said the same thing. Like Gohan seems like he's the best one, but is really only useful on like one team, or at least on a team that has specific allies, which is not the best setup. I mean, there's a bit of decent crossover with like Bond of Master and Disciple, and Android Cell Saga with some of the like future Gohan and stuff like that. But yeah, he seems decent, but just again, as with some of the other units we've talked about today, it's more so the team that you'd run him on is not necessarily the best. But it's nice to see like the when the World Tournament EZAs are actually relatively decent. So I'm happy to know about that Vegito change, because I think without that he would be, well, I mean, almost essentially unrunnable, right? So that's quite interesting, and good to hear that that's actually changed. So looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think with that being said, I suppose that means it's time for the trash take
I think it is.
action.
Did you
it
see,
may
by the
be
way,
now.
the because you sent me the thing and I've obviously made the graphic. Did you see there was a reply to it as well? I think from
I did not. Let me go
same
look
person.
at the
Actually, I haven't
reply right
seen the
now.
trash take myself.
Oh wow!
It is a very good one. I'm
Well,
not gonna hold you. I cooked this week.
Well, we'll see. Theo posted it in the chat, and I straight away my initial response, I was like, "Well, that's a spicy one." So,
Let's see.
while you look up the reply here, let me switch this.
Oh man, that reply makes it so much worse almost. Oh my gosh.
All right, well, here we go.
Oh boy. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, here is the trash take. I think we cooked with this one this week. It says, and I quote, "People are bored of Dokkan's gameplay and are too afraid to admit it, as if they are gonna get crucified by others." Very very interesting take there, to say the least. I will say it is a tad. I don't want to be that guy, being a Dokkan assets in the name, but he does have a Legends profile picture. I'm just saying, right? I just figured I'd point it out.
What's the follow-up thing?
Now, here's the follow-up. There was one comment on this that the individual in question said, "It's what happens when you play for so long." And then the original person who said the comment that's on your screen replied with, "Personally, I barely play it and I get bored, but that's a me thing. My hot take is that most people who play daily, and some for more than 2 hours, I'm assuming that means a day, who interact on the internet have gotten bored of it and refuse to admit it."
Yeah, this is
Minato, did you want to say something? I could go. I know Ningen could definitely go. Did you have something to say, Minato? Oh no, Minato's talking to somebody. My bad.
Sorry, no, okay.
No, you're good.
The
part 2 did make it worse. Yeah.
Look, people getting bored of Dokkan's gameplay and too afraid to admit as they're getting crucified, and then he says, "I don't play it." But it's a little funny in that regard when you hear it. But obviously, they don't play because they're bored of the game, and you could argue that the game. I think it's a thing where maybe people just kind of try to expect too much in the game, where it's like, at the end of the day, this game is a mobile game and it's designed to have a specific type of gameplay. And sure, wanting to spice things up would always be good, but at the end of the day, Dokkan is going to be Dokkan. And if that's not for you and you're getting bored of it, you can always go and play a different game or do
Go touch
else.
grass. That's
I
an
would
option.
I would say the unfortunately, Dokkan community does have this like on Twitter especially has this mindset where they jump people for having different opinion. So a lot of the times, even if it's not that big of a deal, there's this hive mind mindset sometimes, and it's fun to see sometimes. Sometimes it's fine, but sometimes it's kind of crazy. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone who doesn't like some aspects of the game that a lot of people do like would give their opinion on it, and then it's a fair opinion, but in reality, people who really like it, they're like, "Well, I think you're wrong," and they all jump up. So I would not, I guess, be surprised if that kind of thought exists where people are afraid to talk about the negatives of the game, but then you also go on Twitter and it's there's already tons of negative comments in the game anyways, right? And it's fair. I think it's fair. I don't think anyone's necessarily afraid to do that. People could get bored of Dokkan's gameplay, and I've seen people say all the time, this is not an uncommon thing to say. So saying that people are afraid to admit it is not true. I mean, so many people are the game's not for me anymore.
I can only see that in the regard of he said, people are afraid to get jumped, so they don't want to speak out. I can see that, but
that's what you're saying. I mean, it's a thing where I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, well, you're getting bored of Dokkan's gameplay. You suck." No, it's a thing where this person's bored and it's their opinion that they could have, but being afraid to admit it because they're gonna get crucified is not really unless It's not. I feel like most people, unless they're like really obsessed with the game, won't really care because I see it said like so many times that I'm bored of Dokkan. Right. I'm quitting Dokkan because I'm bored. I'm gonna give my account away. Like that pops up like once a month, right? And it happens. But yeah, I feel like it's eh. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this take specifically. Because it's not like a bad take, but it's not a good take. It's kind of like a nothing one.
I mean, it's
You
the
know?
thing, the reason that as soon as I saw it, and I said to Thea, I was like, that's a spicy one, because it's the kind of one that is, again, I don't want to be that guy either. Like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go in too hard, but it's one of those ones that it strikes me as that, it always comes across with that energy of it's like, I know what you're really thinking, not you, and it's like people are actually bored of this game. They're just too afraid to say it, and it's like, no, I don't know, because like you say, people do say it all the time.
Yeah,
And as Minato
that's
said, like
exactly.
it's the gameplay itself. I guess I suppose it does really depend exactly what they mean by the gameplay, because there are a couple of different facets of it, right? Because we've talked about it before on the episodes and just about the game in general. But like the gameplay is, when we've talked about when people call it like a bubble popping game and stuff. Like if you talk about
the
just
gameplay
the
is what
mechanical
you interact
gameplay,
with.
is like
right?
very, very basic stuff, right? But then what
Yeah.
I consider to be an aspect of the gameplay that I really enjoy is like the stuff that happens outside of the battle as well, like the actual team building and like setting up the teams that will work well together, making teams that, sometimes
Okay,
just
that's
funny
interesting.
teams that work with links and stuff like that. Like I consider all of that like part of the gameplay.
I
But
disagree with you on that, interestingly enough.
okay. But
keep
yeah, I mean, I
talking.
guess it depends how you determine gameplay. Because yeah, some people, if they say gameplay, they will just mean like, the rotations and popping bubbles, right? But
I
it's
feel
kind of
like
like Minato said, it is a mobile game, and whilst there are people
Right,
like us
exactly.
and like people who, especially if you're a content creator, like you play it a lot more, I guess, a day than some people. But even people who are talking about it on Twitter all the time, a lot of people will go for like big bursts where like a new unit comes out. So they'll play it a whole bunch because they'll test out the unit on a bunch of different things. But the game's not designed to be played like multiple hours every day. And like we see that in that there's just not enough, they don't release enough content for it to be possible to do that.
because
So
it's
it's
not
like,
intended, right?
yeah, so
Right.
it's like it's kind of one of those, if you log in every day, do your dailies, and then like when a new unit comes out, you pull the unit, you awaken them, you take them into a few events, and then you maybe don't play it that much over the next couple of days. If you're only playing it like that, I feel like it's kind of difficult to get bored of it. It's just a thing that you kind of come back to every now and then. And like a lot of people will say in the streams, like, when people do their summons, or like a lot of people will only play it like while they're doing something else, because the gameplay of the game is not super like something you have to focus on. Like it's not like Legends where you're live interacting and like fighting against another
Yeah.
person. Like you can play it while you're watching something, you can play it while like you're out doing something else, like so it's kind of yeah, like I could see how some people, you could find the gameplay of it boring because it is very basic, but it's kind of like, as a mobile game, that is what it's designed to do, right? And
Because
then
this is a game that you play, like, if you're in Japan when you're on the trains, or,
yeah,
I think in
exactly.
general, right? Or
Um
if you're like, I don't know, you're taking the fattest dookie ever and you're like, dang, let's play some Dokkan, Like, when you just, like, you have free time, and that's what the intention for the game is. But if you're playing the game for, like, 2 hours a day, most likely the chances you're not bored of the game, right? So I think it's more of a thing where people in your predicament, of the person who made this take, who is bored and doesn't really play too often, would be in this space, rather than someone who would play the game like 2 hours a day, like you said, right?
hmm.
And would refuse to admit it. Because I think most people, if they're bored of a game, they just wouldn't play it at all.
Yeah,
Like,
like that's the
Yeah.
part of it
right?
that I find is the fact that makes it an L take. Because like even if you are someone who, if the comment was something more along the lines of like Dokkan gameplay is boring and like this is why I think it's boring, that's kind of like a different take, right? But it's the fact that it's saying like actually there's this whole bunch of people that are bored of the game but they just keep playing it and they pretend they're not bored of it because they don't want like other people on Twitter to like have a go at them or something, is basically what it's saying. When, as we've said, like we see people quit the game all the time, and it is one of those games that if you're not someone who cares about pulling like every single unit, there are people who play the game where they just won't play it for like a couple of months, and then something cool will come out because maybe they do keep an eye on news or they know other people that play it, and like they'll come back for like the anniversary or some big celebration, or like Heroes if they're into the hero stuff, like, and but then other than that they won't play it. Like they don't log in every day and they don't do all of this kind of stuff. So
I mean, even me as a creator, like I log in and then I like bursts even like throughout the week where I sometimes I log in and do my dailies, but I make sure I log in every day, right? Sometimes I don't even do my like dailies for this stuff. Like sometimes I just might not even care because I'm doing something else, right? But
Sinful.
it's a thing where sinful. Okay, I'm losing on like 5 stones a week. Oh no,
that's crazy.
That's cumulative. You gotta think cumulatively.
Blah blah blah. But no, I usually try to make sure I do my 3. Like jokes aside, I try to make sure I do my 3
Dokkan dailies take less than 5 minutes. I've timed it before. You can do it.
Anyways, continuing on, it's a thing where and then after that I just log off and then I go play another game or do something else or sleep. Do whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's a thing where it's almost like difficult to play 2 hours a day. So if you are playing 2 hours a day, then most likely you're either farming something or you're just like enjoying the game.
It's usually when new stuff comes out, and then if you are playing it more like when it's not days that stuff has come out, then it's hard to imagine that somebody is doing that for no reason, like because no one's going to know that you're playing it less or more, but they continue to play it multiple hours a day just so that other people don't find out they're secretly bored of the game. It seems like such a weird like, does that person actually exist? Like someone is sat at home on their own, no one would know whether or not you're playing it, but they're sitting there forcing themselves to play the game because they're like, I don't want people to find out I'm secretly bored of this game.
The people peeking in their window, the Twitter account that has their camera access. Like, so here's the thing, right? I have a lot to say about this take. I think you guys have covered most of it, though.
I'm intrigued
in a good way.
So
So here's the thing, right? For one, I 100% agree with Ningen on the fact of like the take is a dumb and an L take because of the fact that it is making an assumption about other people, right? That is why it is an L take, even without like whether you agree with what the man is saying or not in terms of like the facts that are being presented. The bad part about the take is that it's like, they're too afraid to admit it. It's like, dog, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm thinking, right? Like, hello?
Exactly.
So, it's like in that regard, I think that's really what makes it an L take, right? In terms of like, you guys were talking about like playing it for a long period of time or what have you. I mean, like, for one, Dokkan is almost 10 years old. I can completely understand if somebody gets bored of playing the same game for 10 years. Like, I can understand that. I also understand people who love the game because they've been playing it for 10 years, right? Because it's something that they're comfortable with and they know the gameplay like the back of their hand. So it's something that if they just want something casual to play and something easy, they open their phone and they play what they know, right? I understand both, for sure, right? So, with that being said, though, when it comes down to the aspect of like playing it for a long time, in a period of the day, obviously, again, I think that you're absolutely right. I know some of my friends do that where they only play it for a little while. Like they'll play it during anniversary and worldwide, and then they won't pick it up until another big celebration, right? I have a couple of friends who do that. And I think that's pretty normal, right? Because that's just when the most hype characters are out, right? Like that's when the most content is in the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you not want to like just jump in during that time. You know, it's like most people are not going to be like, oh man, the AGL first form Frieza celebration. I'm so excited. It's like, no,
Well,
people want to play
Part
for
2 is
Gogeta.
pretty sick, but yeah.
No, I'm talking about like normies, right?
Yeah.
Like people, I hate using that word, but like people who
The
aren't
general
as like into it.
populace of like the
Right,
casual
the general
players.
populace, exactly.
Because like
So-
80%, 90% of people who play this game are like playing.
Right, they searched Dragon Ball game on the App Store and downloaded
Yeah.
Dokkan, right? That's how it happened. Now, in terms of the gameplay itself, the thing that I was talking about where I actually like disagree with Ningen on the gameplay, and I think ironically enough, the reason why I think this way is because of Legends, actually. So when I think of gameplay for a game, right, I think about the way that you're interacting with the game in terms of like actually playing the game, not the menu navigation, right? Because that's like the actual game that you're playing, right? The team building and like, you know, that type of stuff and like awakening your characters contributes to the game, but in my mind, you're not like playing the actual like video game's contents, I guess, if that makes sense. Because the way that I always think about it, right, and I know a lot of people in the chat have also been talking about Legends, is that I've talked about this. I even mentioned this on Twitter before. I know this might sound crazy coming from Dokkan assets, but I genuinely think, like, in terms of the gameplay specifically between Legends and Dokkan, I think that Legends gameplay is better, and I think it's more fun. But the problem is, it's everything else around the core gameplay that's the issue, right? If we're talking about just being a gacha game in general, right? I think that Dokkan is leagues and bounds of a better gacha game than Legends, right? Like that's not even a contest, right? Like it's not even close in that regard. In like the, you know, typical things that gacha games like to do, I think that it's not even close that, you know, Dokkan is certainly on top in that regard. Legends has so much menu navigation that half the time when you play Legends, it used to be worse. It's still not great, but half the time you're just playing menu management simulator, right? Before you can even like play the game proper, because you have to do that much grinding for all these different things. I think Legends as a gacha game also suffers from there's too many ways to buff your units, where there's too many things that you can do to buff up your characters and like too many different mechanics in that regard, right? Where it's too confusing for especially new players. Like I literally could never recommend anyone to pick up Legends fresh if they've never played the game before, because that would be a god awful experience. Like there's too many things and the game is too confusing for new players to pick up to understand all the mechanics. Like when I had to explain to my one friend who wanted to play Legends all the different ways that you could buff up their unit, let's just say they don't play Legends anymore because it's too much, right? And there's too much that you need to do with your characters, I feel like, before you can actually use them, right? Not to mention, we're not even going to get into the fact that characters need so many more dupes and are a lot more dupe reliant on that front rather than Dokkan, right? Because like dupes are so much more imperative in Legends. Like when you pull a 2-star version of a character, they're virtually unusable. Where when a character is 55% in Dokkan, they'll be just fine in most cases, right? Now, obviously, keep in mind when also I'm talking about Legends core gameplay, I'm talking about the way that you move around the screen and clicking the cards and swiping forward and punching the other character and using your ultimates and stuff like that. I'm not talking about like the actual characters and their kits, right? That aspect of it is certainly bad because of the way that they've decided to structure the game, where they basically just make, you know, a broken character and then the next release is a broken character to counter that broken character. And it's basically just a power creep almost with every single new character. Now, of course, that then contributes into the gameplay doesn't become as fun because you have all these characters running around that are just not fun to fight, right? But if it was just like, okay, everybody just had like the same Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks, and it was just the same fighting game mechanic, right? Where it wasn't the gacha game and they're all the same strength, then I think that gameplay would be, or is more fun, if I do say so myself. But again, I think it's just all of the aspects around the game that make Dokkan so much more fun. And not to mention, even just talking about using a unit, all you have to do to use your unit in Dokkan, right, realistically, is awaken them, give them 55%, and then you're done. Like, that's it, right? If you want to equip equipment, you can. You don't have to, though. In Legends, you need equipment for sure, because that can make or break some units, right? Not to mention EZAs are just so much more like easy in the way that they work. And half the time characters who get a Zenkai in Legends end up, just like being a bench character rather than a character you're actually using, right? So I think in that regard, right, my whole point was saying all that, is that I think comparing that then to Dokkan, right, is that I think the punching and kicking and the pressing of the cards and the super attacks and Legends is more fun for me personally than just clicking the bubble and then watching the character go, right, in Dokkan. But exactly, it's just Dokkan overall is a lot more of a better user experience to the player. And although it's less interactive, it's a lot more enjoyable because it's a lot less mind-boggling to understand. And it's a lot more simplistic to understand. And I think that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, with this take, to kind of wrap up my whole thoughts on this, is that like, if you're bored of Dokkan's gameplay, right? Like this person said, I don't really play it, then just don't play the game. Like, that's really the easy solution. I think that there was a great quote by Reggie Fils-Aimé from a Nintendo Direct, where it was just something along the lines of, if a game is not fun, why play it? Because it's like, the whole point of a game is that it's supposed to be a fun thing, right? It's supposed to be something that you enjoy and something that brings you happiness, right? It's not supposed to be something that you get into arguments about and resent and regret and feel bored of, right? A game is something that you're supposed to find fun. So when it comes to that aspect of things, right, if you really don't like Dokkan's gameplay, you're bored of it, then just don't play it. I mean, the whole reason why Dokkan's gameplay has remained the way that it is because of the fact that Dokkan keeps making more money, right? Like, clearly people enjoy Dokkan's gameplay because people keep putting money into the game, right? If your favorite character in the history of Dragon Ball could come out, but if you don't like the gameplay of the game, why would you summon for the character? Because you're not going to enjoy using the character anyway, right? Because you don't enjoy playing the game. So I think in that regard, I think that saying that like people are too afraid to admit is very silly, because it's just making an assumption that you don't really understand. And if you don't like Dokkan's gameplay, then just don't play it. It's meant to be a simple game, like you said. It's meant to be a game that you'll log in for a couple hours, you do your dailies, maybe play a couple events, awaken some of your units, whatever, and then you're done for the time being, right? It's not something that you're meant to play for hours and hours and hours, right? I could see if you say that about like a 100-hour video game maybe, but at the same time, then it's also like, well, you probably wouldn't be playing that much of the game anyway. But either way, though, I think this is an overwhelming L take, to be honest with you. There's so many aspects of this that are just ridiculous. And play what you enjoy. If you don't enjoy something, don't bother with it.
Well, plus it's funny because
assume what other people
it's
think.
also funny because I guess the one thing it made me think of at the end there as well is it's like Have you ever heard it's like the meme when people like, you know how people will always go on about like, I'm quitting this thing, and they make a big scene about it, and it's like the whole thing, it's like, this isn't an airport, you don't need to announce your departure. Like, if you're bored of playing the game but you're like scared that other people are gonna get mad at you, like, why do you need to tell everyone? If you're bored of the game, just stop playing it. Like, you don't have to then
Right.
like tweet about it as, oh, I'm bored of playing Dokkan. It's like, well, just don't play it then. Like, the idea that people are bored of playing it and they really want to tweet about it, but they're scared that people will get mad at them. It's
Right.
like, okay, really?
And at that rate, bro, just tweet it anyway. It's like, listen, I hate to tell you this, but you know, if you let what other people say on Twitter, especially if you let that like determine your life decisions, like obviously, you know, especially us as content creators, we get negative comments and hate comments and stuff all the time when it comes down to it. And obviously, of course, by this point, I know probably the three of us really just tend to not let it bother us that much. You know, and obviously there's sometimes the comment that sticks with you that's like, dang, you know, that one really hit a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But at the same, you know, it like there's always one that you can think of that like was really like ow, that one kind of stung a little bit. But at the same time, it's also like, you know, somebody's Twitter comment telling me that I'm dumb or wrong or that I shouldn't be playing the game is not going to influence my decision whether or not I play or enjoy the video game, right? I'm playing the game and because I like it, and not to mention it's a single player game. Why does it matter, bro? You know, it's a PvE game. Why do you care what I do in the game?
Well,
So
there we
it's
go.
not influencing you.
Let me end the poll here.
That's about it for that.
Unsurprisingly, it is a huge majority
what's the poll
take
at?
in the poll.
Oh my god!
I'm surprised there are some.
84.
There are some. Yeah, it's 15% voted W. So interesting.
That comment is so funny. I'm sorry. F this game. Now watch the Stelmax showcase.
Yeah.
Bro.
But there you go.
That's
Overwhelming L take on the poll. So I appreciate you guys.
Finally, I got one that we could really rip into. I usually my takes are always so wishy-washy. I finally got one that I was like, yes, I know that we could obliterate this one. So anyway, thank you guys as per usual for participating in the trash take section. Of course, keep an eye on the old Twitter account to be able to participate in these. Obviously, this week's tweet was a little bit late, but we still thank you guys for giving us some options for this one. Always appreciated. Definitely go follow us on the old twitter.com to be able to participate in the future takes. All right, so thank you. But with that being said, we are now going to move on to the final section of today's episode, which is our donations and super chats. I know there were a couple of them that came through during the podcast that I saw earlier on. So, Ningen, take it away.
Yeah, so there's a couple here for tonight, so I appreciate all you guys for the contributions. We have a super chat, $5 from JC Gamer. Dokkan really needs better community management and should consider developing a Discord because its lack of proper communication is hurting the game. I mean, I definitely would agree. This is something that we see a lot, right? Especially with all the memes about like the global intern and stuff like that, right? It's something
poor guy.
Yeah, I know, right? Imagine if the guy who actually is doing that job and like must be fully aware that he is a massive meme.
I'm so glad that he saw like our replies. I don't know if it was the one I pointed out or the one other people pointed out, but in the first like top 5 like, you know, Alar's Dokkan, we saw the answer basically like days ahead of time, and it was really funny that ended up being completely true, exactly what it is. They just like showed it, and then they changed it as a fake out for the last one for the top 3 extreme characters used in the game. The difficult content is like, yes, they may have listened to our feedback on that because of the fact that like we're like, well, it's kind of dumb to show the answer ahead of time like that, right?
So that is pretty W. I will say I think that is a very interesting proposition. I do agree with the aspect um, of like they definitely need more communication and better communication because there are so many things that get misconstrued in the community. I mean, there are so many things that even I see that I'm like, that's just wrong because it's been misconstrued or the way that it was said could be interpreted in a different way that isn't what they meant. And so I think in that regard, they definitely need some better communication because it has definitely hurt in some ways. Because then what ends up happening is that people then are under the assumption that what they think is correct. And then when it comes out and it's not the way that they thought it was, but it was just the way that it was said in the first place, but their assumption was wrong, then it ends up being a whole big, deal. So I do agree with that. However, I will say Dokkan Discord in terms of an official one, interesting proposition. There are some gacha games that do have one.
Okay.
However, the only thing is, for one, that would mean that you would have to get staff members who would be on the Dokkan Discord like 24/7 all day, which would mean that I assume you would need to hire people for that because there's no way that like people would be sitting on that for free all day, right? I mean, maybe, but I would think that you would need some kind of like actual staff to keep
because you have to have mods
running
and
properly,
stuff, right? Like,
right? Because you can't just have people posting whatever in there, posting terrible, disgusting content.
Well, it's interesting.
And not to mention,
I was gonna say I don't know how other gacha games have done it before, but like when I started playing Helldivers, I joined the Helldivers Discord, and like they just have a bunch of stuff where it's like they have a couple of different channels that are like no one else can post in them, but it's kind of like the thing that we see on Twitter. Like if you follow Harry, like the guy that runs the Dokkan Info, his thing is set so that it like automatically tweets out whenever there's those like news updates and stuff like that, and that's basically what the Helldivers Discord does. Like anytime there's actual announcements about the game, they just get posted in there. And there's a couple of different channels. One's for like the announcements for like maintenance and hot fixes and stuff. One for like the announcements for like when the missions update in the game and things like that. Something like that would be kind of useful to have that go-to place, because whilst it's not something that I don't use very much myself, I know Discord is like quite big now. And we see a lot of comments even from people like in my community, like people in my streams and stuff who don't use Twitter. So them having something like that where all of the updates from both versions of the game, I know obviously when the sync happens, should hopefully be more streamlined, but having a place where all of that stuff gets posted like all at the same time, you know, it could like run automatically with the way it does, right? They get posted in the game, they get posted in like the Discord, right? Something like that could be interesting. But then, yeah, as you were saying, like if they then have any channels where people can actually have interaction, then obviously that requires like
you need moderation.
You need moderation. Yeah, exactly. So
right. I think it's good in some aspect, but also not to mention, could you imagine though if you had someone real rambunctious in there and then it just got out of hand?
Yeah,
because I know that's happened a couple of times in official Discords. Like it seems like a good idea, but I feel like it might be more trouble than it's worth. I don't know. It would just kind of depend on the type of people that were in there. And as much as I also hate to say this, you know that I love the Dokkan community. I really do. I wouldn't be sitting in this podcast if I didn't. But by golly, you know that there are some people in this community that would ruin it for everybody, unfortunately. You know?
But I mean, that's the thing. Even if they just had
the nature of the beast.
I don't know many Discord servers that work like that, but then I don't follow ones that are specifically for games. But it could be a useful resource just as somewhere for them to be able to post like information and updates about the game and stuff. Even if they didn't actually have any channels where people can post themselves. So like all of the channels and all of the posts are just coming from the people that run it. So it's like it's updates about the game. Things that come, you know, like all the stuff that would appear in the news, all those kind of updates, they're appearing in the Discord. But then also being able to throw in the odd posts about like, hey, here's a bit more information about this thing, like stuff like that. Having a place where that could happen, I think would definitely be useful. And I think that's essentially the suggestion from the super chat. So I think that there is definitely a way it could be done. that would be quite
for
good.
sure.
My hope is
They
just
definitely couldn't do a VC chat though.
Well,
There's
yeah,
no way
exactly.
they could do a VC. That would be a nightmare.
my hope is that once the games sync, they will do a slightly better job, because obviously we have no idea what's going to happen. Like, you know, even now on Twitter, right, we get even with same time celebrations, sometimes the global don't post the stuff, right? So like when we start getting everything at the same time, like, and we get like the initial tweets where it's like, hey, these units are EZAing and here's their EZA details in Japanese. Like, is the global account going to post it as well at the same time? Because if not, why not? Like, very, very strange, but I guess we'll find out. But but probably not.
No EZA details for global.
We'll hope. I mean, that's going to be so crazy to think that like stuff's going to come out on both versions of the game at the same time. But for the international version, you still have to wait for somebody to translate the Japanese details. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, we already had Sync celebrations and they don't do it. I don't know why we would expect something that's not going to happen. You know,
that's what they should do. But
oh yeah, it's what they should have been doing for years.
Exactly.
They didn't even do it for their own global releases. Like,
they were.
Come on.
I feel like they should hire a guy and just be like, all right, your job is literally just whenever content comes out, you're the man immediately. You need to have it translated by this date and we'll schedule the tweet.
Well, that's the thing as well. It's like whoever they got, if they employed somebody properly to manage like the global Twitter thing, and they're going to start releasing everything at the same time, then ideally you employ somebody that can do the translations themselves. And then because they have to schedule those tweets, they obviously get to see them before they get posted. So then they would have the time to translate them so that they can then create the post that gets scheduled for the global one. So then they just both go up at the same time. But yeah, anyway, that's we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah, shout out to JC Gamer for that one. A Discord could be a good idea. I don't know in practice how well it would work, but a streamlined way of them giving us information would definitely be appreciated, I think. So yeah, that was that one. So we also have a $10 super chat from Weeb of Class. Do you think any cards that you get with the green incredible gems from the barbershop will get awakenings anytime soon? The last character to awaken was STR Krillin, and there are still 9 cards left to go. Wow, I didn't realize it was that many.
Really? I didn't know that.
I know there's like a Tech Bojack, who I think we all like assumed would awaken when the STR Bojack came out, and he didn't. I know there's like a Yamcha. I think there's a Chaozu. There's a few of them.
Let me take a look here.
There's like that SR Ginyu Goku as well, randomly.
Treasure items. It's in the green gem shop, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
There's that Tech Piccolo who was like, I remember back in the day, like when I started, I used that Tech Piccolo on the like AGL Super Vegito Dokkan event, because I think he has like damage reduction against AGL enemies or something. Like
we have the Tech Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta.
Yeah.
In Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, I think we have AGL Chaozu, Tech Bojack, and I think it's
oh yeah, there's that like the South Supreme Kai or something, right? Yeah, the guy that Boo absorbs to become Fat Boo. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Tech Yamcha, and then we have the 3 starters: the Super Saiyan 2 Goku, the Tech Piccolo that you brought up, and then the STR Gohan. You know, that Tech Piccolo does have 50% reduction over when the card is activated. He does debuff.
Yeah, so
I remember at one time we saw like his awakened art. It was really weird. Like we saw something that was pretty much looked like his awakened art. It was like so long ago during one of the anniversaries. Like, can I find it? Like Tech Piccolo Awakening. Look, I might be able to find it because they put like they showed like the art. I wonder if I could find it right now. I don't know.
While you
probably would have to do some real digging.
In theory, I guess the thing is, I didn't realize it was that long since they awakened one, because that STR Krillin was so long ago. But yeah, I mean, in theory, in theory, it's just a case of like any new celebration that is themed around like one of those characters or like one of those sagas, I guess. They could do one, right? Like the next time we get a Bojack, or you know, the EZA for STR Bojack. Okay. Wonder if they'll ever use this art. Yeah, it's just an art of.
I don't know if I've ever even seen that before.
I think it was in the countdown. Yeah, it was in the countdown to the 6th anniversary, where we had all the voice actors for Team Universe 7 give a video, and then he was like, about like it was I forgot Piccolo's voice actor, but he's like on the voice of Piccolo, and they showed that art, and then we haven't seen it since.
Interesting.
Really
Yeah.
odd, isn't it? Right? That's just like a thing. Like we saw that so long ago. It's like it's definitely. It looks like it would be the art of the awakening of the SSR Piccolo, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I
mean,
guess
it has the same like color effects.
The card effects are very similar. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, in theory, anytime any celebration that is relevant to those characters, they could get an awakening. But it is strange that they.
I mean,
haven't
heck,
done
they
one
could
for
even
such a
just do
while.
it whenever, bro. Like they
Yeah.
could just do it whenever. It's not even like really connected to anything crazy.
True, especially characters like Piccolo and like Chaozu, any of the Z fighters or like Goku's or Gohan's, they can easily
Yeah.
throw those in anywhere. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, shout out to Weevil Class. Shout out to Philip Rodriguez for the $5 super chat. He says, against my better judgment, I used 35 stones for one multi on the Ginyu banner. Got LR Ribrihen Trio and Ginyu. Then I just burned my luck for the Broly banner. Also, hashtag Heroes Agenda.
I hope
so,
not.
yeah, it's always a little bit scary when you get really, really good luck right before a major celebration. But yeah, hopefully you'll still get good luck on the Broly banner. We wish you good luck. Thanks for the contribution to the podcast. So you know, we're all rooting for you.
Sir.
Hopefully you pull Broly.
Just remember, luck is a concept made up by humans to justify the numbers activating as they do. It's not actually real. You'll be fine. I promise.
There you go. So hopefully Broly will still come your way. I'm excited always to see people that are hyped for Broly because, as I've said many times before on my own videos and stuff, whilst I know he's not the best of the anniversary units, Broly is actually the one I'm the most excited for. So I am definitely looking forward to pulling him. So shout out to Philip Rodriguez. We also have Prof re-upping his channel membership for 13 months. Let's go. Cell Max not being on Exploding Rage feels the same as Super Saiyan 3 Rose not being on Target Goku. Think Amatsu, think the Omni-Man meme. Because, yeah, obviously Theo would know, for those of you who don't know, like, the Super Saiyan 3 Rose comes from the part of Hero. That specific Goku Black is a Goku Black that has kind of like Jet Li in the One kind of thing. Except rather than killing versions of himself, he's like traveled across the multiverse, killing multiple versions of Goku. So like this man's entire mission in life is to eradicate as many Gokus from existence as possible. And yeah, he's not on the target Goku category. So I'm not. I mean, I guess Cell Max.
Wait, really? I never even thought about that.
Yeah,
that's whack.
He's not on target
That's
Goku,
crazy.
so, which is like his whole thing. I love the fact as well because
Right.
obviously with the heroes' power scaling and everything being so absolutely ridiculous as it is, the fact that like the Super Saiyan 3 Rose even mentions at one point that like one of the Gokus that he's already killed used Ultra Instinct, so like he's already defeated an Ultra Instinct Goku, which is pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, like I don't know about Cell Max and Exploding Rage. I mean, I guess it does make he's just like an uncontrollable kaiju monster, so I'm not really sure if it's so much that he is. I don't know if it's so much that he's specifically raging as it is literally just that he does not have any control. I'm not really sure.
Keep in mind the way that it was explained in Superhero, right? Is that the I forget the exact
they just
wording
finished.
of, like,
They didn't
whatever
finish
was
like
the-
his programming or something, right?
Yeah,
basically,
they didn't get to
Yeah.
basically implement the control program. They had him finished, but then they still had to make the way to be able to command him to do what they wanted. But that
Yeah.
didn't get finished before he was activated. So then he was just mindless.
going crazy.
basically.
Yeah. No.
So
I mean, I could see
don't
the
know if-
argument. Like Dokkan could put
I
him
could
on
see it,
there,
though.
and then I don't think anyone would complain, right?
You know-
more categories is always better than less, but.
The argument I could see for that would almost be Exploding Rage when he's like wrapped up by Piccolo's arms and he's like going nuts because he's like, I ain't gonna lose, no way, and then he makes
Yeah.
like the giant blast, right? Like I could see that,
Yeah.
but I think in terms of his like base, yeah, probably not, unfortunately. 'cause,
And I guess
you know,
in
more
theory,
content
like, because the
always good.
card has the active skill and he is doing the like sort of twitchy thing as he's
Yeah.
creating the death ball.
Mhm.
So I guess you could make the argument for it, but yeah. Categories and Dokkan, I mean, that'll be an ongoing
Funny.
thing forever, I imagine, right? And then we just had a last-minute one come in here from Sokodo with the $2. Broly walked so Beast Gohan can run in the 9th anniversary. Yeah, I mean, we really got Broly, who was fantastic. Remember, at the time of release, at the time of part 1 of the anniversary on JP, like, Broly was a fantastic unit as the part 1 Dokkan Fest. And then, then Beast Gohan came out as the part 2 Dokkan Fest. It's like, oh, okay.
Listen,
so,
to be fair, if anyone tells you Broly is bad, they're wrong. Don't listen to them.
there you go. We support Broly on the Slot 1 Super
We
Podcast.
do. We love Broly.
All right, well, there you go. So that's it for the contributions for today. So we appreciate you guys, all the donations, super chats, memberships, etc. Thank you very much for all of your support. So that's it for this week.
What are you? All right, well, thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Slot 1 Super Podcast. Obviously, we talked about Ginyu and Cell Max this week, which was very, very exciting. Definitely glad that the boy Cell Max is finally in the game. I think my my superhero endeavors will finally come to rest with Cell Max, unfortunately. But hopefully someday we can get another superhero celebration and whatnot. But with that being said, we will see you all next week. By next week, we should actually have some more info as to potentially some more shenanigans for the global anniversary, because obviously that'll be in like 2 weeks, I believe, when the Annie banners, will be up. We should have some more Tanabata info by next week. So there is.
By the next week, the Tanabata LR probably will be out in game, actually. So.
Really? Okay. Well, then,
really?
yeah, we will definitely be having a good episode for you then. Definitely very, very excited.
Actually, I would even say probably. I think it is going to be in game.
We can double check. But regardless, though, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next week for episode 44. And with all that being said, have a good one.
Peace out.